We're back at Shea Stadium, Bob Murphy's home for 40 years. Of course, for 42, he has been the Mets voice. One of the original voices of the Mets, along with Ralph Kiner and Lindsey Nelson. Tonight, Bob's final call of a game. And while the crowd is not quite as large as some would hope, they are here with love in their hearts for a man who brought them great joy on so many evenings. He was there and has been there through thick and thin, through the low points and the high notes. There's always seemingly been Bob Murphy. There are two guys, Al Leiter and John Franco, who grew up as Mets fans, who talk warmly of listening to Bob Murphy as they fell asleep in their bedrooms, calling Mets games. And young and old, they're out here to thank Murph for the memories that he has brought the fans. He's a voice who united generations. Grandfathers, fathers, grandsons, maybe great-grandsons sharing Bob Murphy, his voice, and he'll be honored tonight here at Shea Stadium. Bob Murphy night here in Flushing, a special night. Many dignitaries on hand. Let's pick up the festivities as we send it to public address announcer Roger Luce.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Mets are proud to welcome you to Bob Murphy night at Shea Stadium. With the announcement of his retirement, today will be Bob Murphy's final home game as a Mets broadcaster, a position he has held since the team's inception in 1962. So tonight, we pay tribute to one of the most popular Mets in our team's history. At this time, we direct your attention to the area behind home plate and ask that you please welcome your MC for this evening, Bob Murphy's radio partner for the past 15 seasons, Mets broadcaster Gary Cohen.
Thank you, Roger. I began listening to Bob Murphy when I was 6 years old. For me and for you, Bob Murphy has been, quite simply, the voice of summer. The sound of our barbecues, the voice of warm summer nights, and what collection of sounds in the human experience is more soothing than the pounding of the surf, the din of the seagulls, mixed with Bob Murphy's Oklahoma lilt coming from a sandy transistor radio. I've had the unique privilege of sitting next to Murph these last 15 years of summer days and summer nights, watching and listening as Murph brings smiles to the faces of people from all walks of life. For half a century, generations of fans have grown up with Murph, experiencing the beauty of baseball through his voice. From Ted Williams to Tom Seaver to Mike Piazza, Bob has always been there for us. Other broadcasters will come and go, but Bob Murphy will always be the voice of summer. With us tonight, we are pleased to welcome some very special guests. Bob's good friend and perennial Mets anthem singer, Julius LaRosa. A longtime friend of the Mets, Father Dan Murphy. Former Mets chairman of the board and owner, Linda DeRolay, and her daughter, Whitney Bullock. WFAN broadcaster and lifelong Mets fan, Jody McDonald. A Mets fan favorite, WFAN's Steve Summers. the Mets Executive Vice President, Dave Howard. His honor, the Mayor of the City of New York, Michael Bloomberg. Representing the late Gil Hodges, Mrs. Joan Hodges. An original Met in 1962, who returned to coach in 1969, Joe Pignatano and his wife Nancy. The shortstop of the amazing '69 Mets and coach for the club's second World Championship in 1986, Bud Harrelson, along with his wife Kim. The 11-time Gold Glove winner and current Mets broadcaster, Keith Hernandez, and his guest, Kai Thompson. The franchise Hall of Fame pitcher, Tom Seaver, along with his wife, Nancy. Current Mets pitcher, left-hander Al Leiter. And the Mets team captain, John Franco. Bob's 42-year partner in broadcasting, Hall of Fame home run hitter, Ralph Kiner, and wife Diane. Entering the field, Mets Vice President and an original Met, Bob Mant. And Bob Murphy's beautiful wife, Joy Murphy. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor. From the beginning, Bob Murphy's voice has been synonymous with Mets baseball. Fans first heard him call the Mets debut in '62. And while the early years adhered to Murphy's Law, fans tuned in to Murphy's voice, and a love affair began. Pitch after pitch, season after season, Bob's captivating calls rang from radios around the city. He's been our companion for tension-filled pennant drives and the muffled voice beneath our pillow on hot summer nights. Through 42 years, we've hung on Bob's words, each syllable spelling elation or devastation. For generations, he's shaped imaginations, molding Mets memories like puffy cumulus clouds. Please welcome Bob Murphy. Bob, for 42 years, your work has enriched the greatest city and the greatest baseball fans in the world. Tonight, your adopted city honors you. Please welcome Mayor Michael Bloomberg with a special proclamation.
Murph, 42 years, 4 World Series, 2 World Championships, 112 different third basemen, but only one voice of the Mets. From one guy from Boston to another, both of us came to New York. This makes it Bob Murphy Day. Congratulations.
We're just starting, Murph. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now to make a presentation on behalf of the New York Mets, here is the club's Executive Vice President, Dave Howard.
Bob, the New York Mets organization has been honored and indeed blessed to have had you announce our games for these past 42 seasons. You have always conducted yourself with dignity, class, and grace. I could use many superlatives to describe your career, but I believe the highest praise and the greatest tribute is the fact that you are truly loved by generations of Mets fans and Mets employees. Bob, you will forever be a member of the family. Your retirement does not change that. And to help you stay connected with us next season, the New York Mets will have installed in your Florida home a new state-of-the-art, customized home theater entertainment system so you can keep tabs on your fellow broadcasters. In addition, the organization has commissioned a bronze plaque commemorating your extraordinary career. A duplicate of this plaque will be prominently displayed at Shea Stadium as an ongoing tribute to your priceless contributions to our organization. Congratulations on a wonderful Hall of Fame career. We wish you health and happiness in your retirement.
Thank you, Dave. Through the team's history, over 750 players have worn the blue and orange. Murph has met them all. Here to make a presentation on behalf of Mets players, past and present, please welcome pitchers Tom Seaver, John Franco, and Al Leiter.
Thank you very much, Gary. I was very fortunate. I came to New York in 1967. So for those many years, I've been able to count on Bob Murphy as a friend of mine. Bob Murphy came to New York in 1962, and for all of New York City and the New York metropolitan area, you've been able to count on him as a friend for over 35 years. We are really totally blessed. I was trying to figure out what was exactly the best thing to say about Bob Murphy here tonight, and I was sitting here talking to Nancy. She said, you know, we came here, that man taught me baseball. Murph, thank you very, very much. It is indeed my pleasure, along with John Franco and Al Leiter, to present you with this gift.
Thanks, guys. Bob has been broadcasting Mets games on radio since the team's inception. The last 17 of those seasons have been on the Fan, WFAN radio. Here to present a gift from Murph's WFAN family, please welcome Jody McDonald and Steve Summers.
Hello, Bob. There are a number of things I'm not going to really have time to say in the few moments that I have, but there are a few things that you can say about Bob Murphy that are both timeless and priceless. One, we would all love to have his stamina and energy. Number two, we would all love to have his Hall of Fame career and all of the memories that go with that. And three, we would all love to have his character and class as a human being, as a broadcaster, and as a baseball fan. His voice, a part of New York baseball for 42 years, as familiar as the summer breeze. Mets baseball and Bob Murphy's voice were one and the same. Bob Murphy, one of a kind. Through his eyes and through his voice, Metropolitan fans were able to see and hear everything. And every one of us at WFAN Radio hoped that the very next inning of Bob Murphy's life is as rewarding as the last 42 years have been for Met fans everywhere. Thank you very much.
I was born in 1961. The Mets were born in 1962. In their booth, in the original year, there were four individuals: Lindsey Nelson, Ralph Kiner, Bob Murphy, and their statistician, Joe McDonald. That was my dad. On my first birthday, my father was at the Polo Grounds trying to pass stats to Murph to make the Mets look good. For those of you who remember that 62 team, it wasn't an easy job for either my father or Murph. I, like a lot of you here in this crowd, grew up both literally and figuratively with Bob Murphy. Bob, know full well that while you are rightfully enshrined in Cooperstown in the Broadcasters Hall of Fame, you are also enshrined in the heart of every single New York Met fan. On behalf of WFAN and all your loyal listeners, congratulations on an amazing career. You've always expressed how you enjoy cruises as a small token of our appreciation for all you've done. Please accept a Caribbean cruise for both of you to enjoy. Spring will never be the same without you, Murph. Congratulations. We love you. Over the Mets' 42 seasons, 23 different broadcasters have provided play-by-play and color commentary. But aside from Bob, only one other broadcaster has called every season. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce original Met and baseball legend, Ralph Kiner.
Thank you. It's hard to believe that Murph and I have been together for 42 years. I had met Bob in Baltimore in 1961. I knew his brother well from San Diego, Jack Murphy. And then I was offered the job to broadcast the Mets games. I had worked 1 year as a White Sox broadcaster, and I'd signed to do 1 more year. And I went to them and they let me out of my contract to join Bob Murphy, Lindsey Nelson, and be the 3rd member of that group. I went to spring training in 1962. Didn't really know what I was getting into. We knew that baseball was back in New York and that the National League fans were once again going to have beloved baseball, National League style. And they were happy, we were happy, and Lindsey Nelson said to me, the one great thing about broadcasting these games for the Mets is that you're not replacing anyone. You're starting fresh. No one's going to be unhappy because an announcer had left, or more than one announcer had left, and that's the way it started. We had a meeting with George Weiss, the president of the Mets, and he called us to his suite in the hotel, and we waited there for him to arrive. He got there, looked at us, and said, "You guys know how to broadcast, go do it." And that was the last bit of instruction we ever had. And now, Murphy is going to retire. I can't tell you how many times that I have heard fans say to him, "Bob, I used to take my radio to bed with me and listen to you broadcast the games. And you put me to sleep every single night." And Joy, Mrs. Weiss, Hazel Weiss, said, when George Weiss retired as the president of the New York Mets, I married him for better or for worse, but not for lunch. Joy, you're going to cook a lot of lunches. But it is with great pleasure and also with great sadness that I am here to introduce Bob on his last day of working for the Mets after 42 years. Over the 42 years, Murph and I were like brothers. I stayed at his house, ate his house, and had all those wonderful times with him on and off the field. It's going to be sad without you, but I'm happy for you, and I'm so proud of you and to have been a partner of yours. Thank you, Bob Murphy. And now it's your turn once again.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you. Mets fans have always been unbelievably good, loyal, friendly. It all began a long time ago, 1962. The Mets played their first games in the old Polo Grounds up in the Bronx. In those days, the announcers got to know the fans a lot better than you do nowadays. And Met fans were just terrific. Met fans learned early on that nothing comes easy. Mets would win about one game a week, and you'd have to be happy with that. And we were pretty happy with it. A new team was underway in the National League. New York was really hungry to have a National League team. And thanks to the late Bill Shea and many others, the New York Mets were born. Played their first 2 years in the Polo Grounds. We came here to Shea in 1964. The World's Fair was going on right across the street. Baseball was such fun. Even though the Mets weren't winning a lot, it was a fun game and you loved to talk about it. They had Casey Stengel. Having Casey Stengel around meant so much to baseball in the city of New York. He was marvelous to be with, and we just loved him. Just like you came to love all of the New York Met fans who were just so terrific. Casey would do his job, then he'd want to talk baseball for another 3 or 4 hours. Finally, you'd go to bed and he'd say, "I'll see you for breakfast about 7 in the morning." Casey really gets you going. And the writers loved Casey Stengel. And the writers in those days, led by the late Dick Young, by Jack Lang, who's here tonight, got the New Yorkers to love their ball club, the New York Mets. They became the Amazons. It took a while to win, but the winning streak began in 1969. I remember talking to Gil Hodges in spring training of '69, and I asked Gil if this team had a chance to win some games. Gil thought about it for a moment. He said, "I really think they might win 85 games." And after he said that, he said, "Now, if I really believe that, why don't I figure out a way for the West Mets to win another 5 games and get into contention?" Boy, did they ever. There was a man on the moon that season, and the Mets won a pennant. New York was absolutely gaga over the amazing Mets, managed by the most wonderful man in the world, the late Gil Hodges. Tom Seaver really burst on the scene in 1969. What a wonderful pitcher. What a gifted athlete. And a guy who wanted to win. He didn't want to hear about the Mets and their losing ways. He wanted the Mets to win ball games. My gosh, he went out and won 25 games on his own. And the Mets were really on their way then. They won the World Championship, and they beat a dynasty team in the World Series. They beat the Baltimore Orioles. After losing the first game of the series, they won the next 4, and they were champions of the baseball world. They would win again in '73. Yogi was here then. Yogi's one of my all-time favorite guys in baseball. As pure as the driven snows. You won't find a better guy than Yogi Berra. And the Mets won in '73, even though they were outmanned and outgunned. They beat a dynasty team as they had before. The Cincinnati Reds were the big red machine, and the Mets, with Tom Seaver leading the way, were able to beat Cincinnati, go on to the World Series. They finally lost a 7-game series to Oakland. But the Mets have been that kind of a club over the years. They provided so many wonderful moments for fans of New York. Most important to me, they have provided me with a way of life that I have enjoyed so much. You just can't possibly believe how much I love it. I love the fans. They're terrific. After I announced that I would retire back in July, the mail we received has been unbelievable. We'll have something to do that first winter. We'll stay home and answer mail all winter long. But the Mets are terrific. Ownership has made the Mets awfully good. Their first owner was Joan Payson, and New Yorkers loved Joan Payson. She was so popular. Then along came her daughter, Lorinda DeRoulet. Then came Nelson Doubleday and Fred Wilpon. Now Fred Wilpon is the owner of the ball club. Ownership means a lot to the fans who root for a team. They want to know they can count on that ownership. And that's what they've had with the New York Mets. They've had an ownership that has stood up, ready to count, and got the job done. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's all winding down right now. It has been such fun, you can't believe it. I just hate to say goodbye so much. I know I have no choice. It was a lot easier saying hello the first day we came to New York 42 years ago than it is saying goodbye here tonight. The Mets broadcast will be in awfully good hands. Gary Cohen takes over full-time for the New York Mets. There isn't a better baseball broadcaster in the country than Gary Cohen. Good luck, Gary. You can really do it. He can really get it done. Well, there's no point in keeping you any longer, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you how much I love you. Let me tell you how great you have been. I'm going to miss you, believe me, I will. I'll start missing you the minute I walk off this field. It has been such a marvelous, marvelous time. On behalf of my wife, Joy, we both say thanks to you for being so good to us, for allowing us to be a part of your life, and for enjoying baseball with us. Thank you very much, and good night, and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Murphy.
What a marvelous ceremony here at Shea Stadium. Bob Murphy rides off, not yet into the sunset. He's got one more game tonight. We'll have all the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of it right after this. But this is a night. And Pittsburgh Pirates get ready to face each other once again here at Shea Stadium. It's a gorgeous night for baseball in Flushing. The Mets have won the first two games of this series. They look for the sweep this evening. It's the final home game of the 2003 campaign. And
as Bob Murphy said earlier today, the early years of the Mets oftentimes saw the broadcasters focusing more on the great players and great feats of the opposing teams. But never was that more true than at Shea Stadium on Father's Day, 1964.
Slugging out, a perfect game for Jim Bunning. Here come his teammates. Oh, what a happy scene for the Phils and Jim Bunning.
Trying to reach double figures in wins and win his first game in September. Lineup he'll face, well, Tike Redman leading off. Jack Wilson will bat second. Middle of the order once again, Kendall, Craig Wilson, and Jason Bay, with Salomon Torres on the mound for Pittsburgh.
And Tom Glavine on the mound tonight for the Mets, going after his 10th victory of the season. So he wants to get into double digits in the win column. You know what Tom's going to give you? He's going to give you a fastball, 2-seamer, 4-seamer. He'll change speeds off the fastball. He also has a straight changeup. So he features a number of pitches. Doesn't like to throw his curveball or slider, but this year has been throwing it just a little bit more than in the past. He relies on his defense, and his defense looks like that. You got Mike Glavine at first, McEwing, Valandia, and Wigginton round out the infield. 2 errors of 30 starts for Valandia at short. You got Gonzalez, Perez, and Cedeno left to right in the outfield. Piazza behind the plate. So Jorge Valandia playing shortstop tonight for the Mets as they head for the year 2004. This is the final home game of the New York Mets in a very emotional and well put together ceremony prior to the game. Starting off with a terrific cocktail party before the game. There's Mike Glavine, Tom Glavine's brother.
Well, you know, there's a little history tonight with Murph stepping aside after 42 years on the job. This is the first time in the history of the franchise the Mets have had brothers play. And Mike Glavine getting an opportunity to start one big league game.
Fred Wilpon said it gave Mike Glavine an opportunity to share the field with his brother Tom, and here's a problem.
That is someone who's been made the object of a practical joke.
We hope. Imagine if we put it up there.
If we put it up there, he won't be here tomorrow. Okay. He better have a better reason than that. Tike Redman takes strike one with Eddie Montague behind the plate, and there is that's in the Met clubhouse, the board that lists the lineup on a daily basis. And the brothers Glavine.
That is a nice touch. I mean, the Mets were going no place in the month of September. That is a nice touch right there. The Glavine brothers in the ball game tonight.
Well, the interesting thing is Redman hits a little soft slice over the drawn-in Wigginton, and he's got himself a leadoff hit.
And he can run, so they got to watch him. Tom Glavine will have to keep him close. He'll have to throw the ball to his brother Mike. I like that story.
So here's a funny thing, Franny. Who would have thought that if we came to the ballpark for the last home game of the year and the big story was that Mike was playing first base and it wouldn't be Piazza?
That's
that Mike Glavine plays first base before Mike Piazza.
Especially if you saw the pavement past few days and then you came to the ballpark and saw a Mike at first.
Pickoff here, and Mike Glavine makes the throw down to Valandia, and they get Redman out.
That's good base. Well, it's bad base running, but a nice try by Redman. He ran right at Valandia. Mike Glavine makes a perfect throw. He's going to come off the base and move toward the infield. Thread the needle, and look at Redman going right at Valandia and then sliding away. Good try by Redman. Once you caught, run at the fielder, especially if you're bigger than the fielder. Block his view. And it's a tough throw. Watch Mike Glavine. Now, Mike, I'm surprised he didn't come up a little bit closer to the grass, but he makes a perfect throw. Look at Redman going. Now he's getting out of the way of the ball. Valandia make a nice play. As the infielder receiving the ball, that's difficult because you lose it momentarily in the body of the oncoming runner.
But that's one of those plays that highlights the advantage of a left-handed throwing first baseman.
Yeah,
a left-handed thrower has a much better angle.
Right, and Mike Glavine, the key right there, I'm sure Keith Hernandez would verify this. As you catch the ball, you're moving towards the grass area of the infield, so you have a perfect shot throwing the ball to Valandia at second. But Mike Glavine, with a lot of confidence in his throwing, cut him down.
And see, I'm biased, of course, but I think you should have a left-handed first baseman. I really do. Of course, it makes it makes the tag play better. Carry him off Glavine. That'll be a hit for Jack Wilson. And Tom Glavine stung by that. And immediately, Mike Herbst, Mets trainer, comes out along with Art Howe, Vern Rule. Got that one right on the knee, I believe.
You got to rub it because that's sore. You know what? As much as this affected Tom Glavine, he'll probably come out of the ball. Well, no, he's going to. You know what? You got to be careful. Last game, you're going to pitch. Why mess around with your throwing arm? Mets have a lot invested in number 47.
Oh, you just gotta see if he can walk it off. I mean, this is unusual too, Fran, because Tommy Glavine is just a very, very good fielder of his position. So that's a rarity to see him get hit by a ball.
And takes pride in his ability to field the ball. And is surprised when other pitchers don't work on it, as Mike Herbst and Art Howe look at, well, you know what? If there's a doubt, you might as well get him out of there.
I mean, I believe the way he reacted, I got him right on the kneecap.
Yeah, you favor the foot or the leg, you're going to hurt your arm. Why take a chance? You don't want to do something and worry about it all during the off season. I would be surprised if Art Howe, just because they're spending that much time on it, I'm surprised that Art hasn't just made the decision to go to the pen. Of course, he's going to ask Tom Glavine, and Tom's not going to come out of the ballgame because he mentioned his record. He wants double digits in W's. He's got 9 coming into tonight's action. So he's going to stay in the ballgame.
He's going to try to throw, yes. He'll take a few tosses here and see if he's able to continue. It's the landing leg, not the push-off leg.
You know, they said that Dizzy Dean hurt his arm after he broke his toe in the All-Star game, but I had heard that he had a bad arm prior to that. Well, it's a good excuse. But I mean, you just don't. Yeah, it's a good excuse. I mean, Dizzy Dean, they said, was pretty much all done before that All-Star game, but you really don't want to hurt the arm because you're favoring the leg. Right. And Mike is talking to him about that now.
Don't do anything dumb.
And swell up.
He's going to stay out there. He'll at least try to finish. You know, this.
Are you looking at a good fielding pitcher? Watch this. He's ready to field his position. You know, I'm surprised he didn't make that bet because he is a terrific fielding pitcher, only to be overshadowed by his former teammate, Greg Mattx.
That's right. Go back to June the 5th. Glavine here at Shea on June the 5th started to feel a little bit of a problem in his forearm, right below his elbow. And he came out here. Remember, he struggled the first inning of the game against Milwaukee. He tried to pitch into the second and left. That's, I'm sure, what's going through everyone's mind here. Tommy walked 5 batters that night. Right in with a strike to Jason Kendall. Nobody moving around yet in the bullpen. And quickly Glavine right in there with 2 strikes to Kendall.
So much for the short leg.
Yep.
Look at Wilson on deck. McClendon, the manager of the Pirates, in that dugout, enjoying his contract extension. Now coming back into the booth, the big guy, Ralph Kiner.
And Kendall takes that side. You know, Ralph, I got to be honest with you, I was getting worried. You're sitting down there watching Murph get all these great gifts. We're starting to worry you're going to try to cash in on this deal too.
I'll tell you, it was wonderful.
That was
and the fans' reaction was fantastic.
Yes, it really was. Just low, 2-2.
I'll tell you one thing, I don't think in the history of the Mets, I know, not even thinking, nobody ever got the Murphy from the fans. 2-syllable, Murphy, Murphy. Only ball players. Not many of those.
That was quite a ceremony in the field, and also the cocktail party that the Mets put on, well-orchestrated cocktail party.
You've mentioned that a couple times, Fran. I think you're rooting for that to be a custom here, huh?
Before every game, loosen us up.
Fouled away, and of course, nice representation by Ralph, of course, Murph's partner for 42 years, and to see some of the greats, to see Buddy Harrelson here and Tom Seaver. Ed Kranepool is here tonight.
Let's not forget our buddy Keith Hernandez.
And Keith, of course, here.
We had Nancy Seaver, obviously with Tom, and Ken Harrelson.
Joe Pignatano.
Joe Pignatano was here. Ty Thompson was with Keith. Diane Kiner was here with Ralph.
This ball out to shallow left center, and it's going to be taken at the last by Gonzalez.
That was almost by default. Everybody else says you got it. Boy, last second. Thank goodness for the great glove.
The modern glove. Willie Mays basket catch. Made popular by
Robert Miranda.
Robert Moreno was a guy who you'd like his cocktail parties too.
He was the king of the cocktail parties. I told you about the time when he was managing in the minor leagues
Springfield,
in Springfield, and the lights would pop and blow out every time, and it made quite a sound. It sounded like a gun going.
Right.
And he'd be coaching in the third base box and fall to the ground like he was shot. Finally, had to give it up. He was down so many times he couldn't get back up. Talk about bad lights. Wow.
Pension Park.
Pension Park.
Wilson tops one on the ground to Wigginton. He goes the short way, so Glavine recovers from the shot to the right knee to at least get through that first inning. See how it feels, I'm sure, while the Mets hit. I still have a hard time saying this name. Salomon Torres.
Why is that?
Try to say it. Well, that's history. I'll get to it.
Yeah, get to
Try
it.
to say it quickly. All right, here's the Met lineup. McEwing playing second base tonight. Perez, Piazza, and Wigginton, the heart of the order. And Mike with the great career numbers against the Pirates, trying to get himself going before year's end. And Mike Glavine batting 8th right in front of his brother.
And there he is. He's on the mound. And there'll be a story behind him. He broke in with the Giants. Ted Robinson knew him. There are his numbers. Tell us the story.
He's a very nice young man. Salomon Torres, 10 years ago this week, pitched at 21 years of age, one of the most important games in the history of a franchise. San Francisco and Atlanta were hooked up in what was baseball's last great winner-take-all pennant race. The year before wild cards were introduced. And they came down to the final day of the year. Both teams had 103 wins.
I remember that.
And the Giants had nobody to start the Sunday game in LA.
It was the dirt. It was the dirt.
Dusty Baker chose Salomon Torres, 21 years old, to start that final game. Atlanta won its game first, and the Giants went on the field, and the moment was a little too much for Salomon. And he got knocked out in the third.
And you never forgave him.
And it's difficult for any Giant fan, although, quite frankly, he was not. You know, to be honest, the relievers pitched worse than he did.
He was traded away, though, wasn't he?
And then he eventually, later on, got traded away, right? Here's Glavine got traded to Seattle for a guy that wanted to pitch for the Mets last year, Sean Estes.
So there is, in fact, cheering in the press box. Yes or no?
Is there cheering in the press box?
No cheering in the
I'm looking
press
over. I don't see anything.
Rome Holtzman said no cheering in the press box. Ooh, that's a nasty pitch.
Torres strikes out Stadium.
Pretty good pitch right here, Ralph.
Bottom dropped out of the strike zone. And it goes as a swinging strike. How many people strike out on balls that are not strikes? The majority.
Why
Exactly
are you looking at me?
You never got the bat off your shoulder.
You know, between you and Sievert, I had a bad day.
He had a bad day.
Yeah, I had to sit next to him.
Veteran Jeff Rebele playing second base tonight for the Pirates as McEwing bats. And he'll be followed by Timo Perez. Well, Torres tonight, I mean, here's a guy that was out of baseball for 4 years. He went back to the Dominican Republic, was actually working as a preacher, and trying to literally spread the gospel of baseball in his home country, and decided last year to make a comeback.
Well, not the gospel of baseball. A preacher, you say, not for baseball.
And both.
Okay.
Both. He was doing it, well, the Dominican, baseball is right there with religion. And he was, what my understanding is, he's working it really at both. Then last year decided to make a comeback with the Pirates. This year's his 16th start. And his last start was not a very good one. And Lloyd McClellan jumped him. So his pitching tonight was a little, I'm sure, a little angry because his manager got on his case to put up forth a little better effort.
Wasn't Vernon Law a preacher?
He was a Mormon. Yes, he was.
And he pitched,
yes.
Pitched for the Pirates. Must be something about Pittsburgh.
Vernon Law, the great right-hand pitcher. And indirectly a teammate of mine. I was there when he showed up on the roster. Really didn't pitch. Bob Fran was there and did pitch when I was there.
Ewing takes a ball 3-2.
And Bob Fran is living in Pittsburgh right now.
Ended
His
up with
son
the
is
Mets,
on
didn't he?
the golfing tour. Yes, he ended up with the Mets.
Fran
Yes.
finished with the Mets.
He pitched for the Yankees, too. One of those many that pitched for the Yankees and the Mets.
So 3-2 to McEwen. Joe rolls one to the third baseman. Makoviak makes the play. There's nobody warming up in the Met bullpen, so I can only assume that Tom Glavine's going to come back out in the second inning. There it is, an empty bullpen right now.
You know, just in case Mike Piazza does play an inning or two at first base, when he does, we did a nice little feature today with our producer Mike Santini, and Keith Hernandez was taking us through the art of playing first base.
You think it might happen tonight, huh?
I don't know. Oh, no, I don't know.
Timo with a bouncing ball at Revelay Fields. So a 1-2-3 inning, and after one at Shea, final home game. No score. Glavine's
Hey,
coming
Mets
back.
fans, this is Ron Swoboda. Join me at the official Mets Fantasy Camp in Port St. Lucie, Florida. To put yourself in the lineup, call 718-559-3035 or log on to Mets.com. Space is limited, so call today.
Tommy Glavine back out there to give it a shot. He took a ground ball off the right knee from the bat of Jack Wilson in the first inning. So Tommy Glavine back out to work the second. Jason Bay will lead it off.
By the way, Willie Mays was honored here on this date.
Was this, what, 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Willie Mays night. Wow, that about a week after Willie Mays night, the Mets won their second division title in Chicago.
Now the stretch by McGraw, the 3-2 delivery, the runner goes, and a little pop-up. Milner grabs it, he'll run to first, double play, the Mets win the pennant. The Mets have just won the pennant in the Eastern Division. It's all over, the Mets have won it with a magnificent stretch drive. They won 19 and lost only 8 in September. They've won their first October ball game, and with it,
That's got to be a great memory. We're out there, about 1,000 people in the stands on that day in Chicago.
You know what happened, and they were rained out on Sunday, and they play a doubleheader on Monday, the day after the season was over. So no one had tickets, and there was another terrible day. And we played the first game, and the Mets won that game, and they canceled the second game.
Rusty Staub tells a great story about that. The Mets, of course, had that remarkable surge at the end of the year to win the pennant with only, or division rather, with only 82 wins. Rusty tells a story. They go back in the clubhouse after that out you just saw, and Rusty immediately pops a champagne bottle, starts drinking from it. And I guess the front office people said, wait a minute, you can't do that now. We got to play another game. And Rusty said, the heck with that. We're celebrating. And about 5 minutes later, they looked around and realized, we're not going to play the second game.
And that was a year, of course, you got to believe. That was Stephen McGraw and his famous saying. And it was really said as a deriding remark. M. Donald Grant, who was running the ball club at that time, came into the clubhouse and gave a pet talk to the Mets. They were in last place, and he gave a pet talk, and when he got all through with his so-called pep talk and walked out, Tom McGraw said in a really sarcastic way, "You got to believe," and that was a battle cry, and that's how that started the whole thing.
Makoviak would be behind J.J. Davis here. Mentioned Tug's name, of course. I think everyone continues to send all their prayers out to Tug as he fights his battle this summer. And I know a player that Mert hoped would be able to be here tonight. One of his favorites, one of everybody's favorites.
McGraw was in the Marine Corps as well as Bob Murphy.
Glavine moving well. It's off the mound to field that swinging dribbler off the bat of J.J. Davis.
Oh, Glavine hit by that ground ball early in the ball game, and now he comes off the mound, shows no sign of that being a bother to him, and he makes the play at first base for the second out of the inning. one time on Connor's Corner, I had Tub McGraw on the show, and he gave me a haircut on the show. And Johnny Murphy, the general manager of the Mets at that time, called him into his office and said, let's get serious. And he really gave him a bad time for being somewhat comedic. And
for giving you a haircut.
Yeah, and I never recovered from that haircut. There was blood all over me.
What's wrong with that?
2 strikes to Makoviak.
I'm not really serious, but it wasn't a very good haircut. But I didn't really recover from the haircut, that's for sure, but it was the hair that didn't recover.
1-2 to Makoviak. Well, it's one of those nights, the final. It seems strange to have the final home game being on a Thursday night. Usually your final game of the year is on a Sunday at home. Bouncing ball hit by Makoviak, thrown out by McEwing, or Volandi rather, but it just gives us a chance to reminisce a little bit tonight as we go to the bottom of the second. No score. Mike Piazza starts the bottom of the second. No score here at Shea. Mike's had a couple of hits the last 2 nights. And 2 hits here on Tuesday night, 1 hit last night and a walk. Hits have all been singles. He's back through the middle here. He's got himself another hit. So Mike getting on base, although not still hitting with the power that he'd like. As we remind you that New York Mets baseball brought to you in part by Ford. Visit your Tri-State quality Ford store for the best-selling vehicles in America. By Heineken, it's all about the beer. Heineken. And by Saab, welcome to the state of independence.
Right about the ceremonies here tonight. By the way, a video was passed out to the folks coming through the gate. The communications department, the video department here at Shea put together a terrific video of Murph.
Aptly named Happy Recap. As Tike Redman calls in Wigginton's drive.
All about Murph's career.
50 years is a long, long time.
Boy, that's a long time. Started off with those Boston Red Sox.
6 years with Kurt Gatti and the Red Sox.
Moved to Baltimore.
2 years there.
Came to New York.
42 years in New York.
And at one time thought about going back to Boston.
Very seriously.
Yes.
Really? What era?
He was offered the job when Gatti retired to Boston.
Okay. Well, Kurt Gatti went to the game of the week.
Double play ball hit by Raul Gonzalez. And that'll put a quick end to the inning. So the leadoff hit by Piazza denied on the double play ball. We're through 2 with no score. No score as we go to the 3rd. Jeff Rebele will lead it off against Tom Glavine. Tom has not won a game since he beat the Dodgers on August 24th in Los Angeles. Just a great game that night, giving up just 2 hits in 7 innings. Since then, 3 losses and 2 no decisions.
Tom Glavine came out of high school. He was drafted by a hockey team, the Kings, and he was also drafted by the Atlanta Braves. He said it was a very difficult time to sit down and sort through what he wanted to do.
Rebele back through the middle for a hit.
If he didn't sign to play baseball, he would have gone to school in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is now the University of Lowell. He would have played both sports. He wanted to play both sports in college. Some schools wanted him for baseball only. Some schools wanted him for hockey only.
I'm trying to think, it was Kurt McCaskill, right, who pitched in the Angels for many years. He was a hockey player.
Richie Hebner.
Richie Hebner, huh? That's right.
He was a grave digger, too.
Right.
That's why he was a good low ball hitter.
And they tell me he played like a grave digger that one year with the Mets. So
he
I
didn't
hear.
play too well here.
Didn't necessarily, wasn't inspired.
He was a good player for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes, he was.
When he was the batting instructor with the Philadelphia Phillies, Richie Hebner said you needed a degree from Harvard to clock hitting these days.
Torres deadens that. Piazza right there, out at second, but Torres beats it to first. Good throw by Mike Piazza.
A great throw by Piazza. Right there, he didn't have to think about what his feet were doing. Came out, fielded the ball, and got it off of a perfect throw.
Well, the one thing he does have, he has decent velocity. And right there, well, look at this. That's how you judge a catcher's arm. He's just lost his confidence throwing the ball to second base. Made a good throw in last night's game. But you can see when you watch him in infield, or you watch him throw the ball out in the outfield before batting practice or during batting practice, pretty decent velocity. So you don't worry about that. The thing he has done is he's lost his confidence in throwing the ball to second base.
Tike Redman takes a ball. Redman had a soft single to shallow left his first time. Mets shade him to hit that way.
Saw Mike Glavine playing off the base down there at first base. Our Aflac trivia question is going to have something to do with playing off first base.
You know the question already?
Yeah, you know why? Because Mike Ciantini and Keith Hernandez and I were down there at first base just examining every aspect of the game down there. I'm not sure the answer. That's why we're going to discuss it.
I want to get into when you're a first baseman and you give a target to the pitcher and you hold the glove at your letters. Why do you do that when you want the throw to be on the back?
Because it's easier to catch it up in the letters.
Oh, Redman goes the other way past Wigginton. So Redman's twice hit the ball precisely the way the Mets expected. He's got 2 hits.
And you say, if you look at the box score and saw 2 hits and 2 at-bats, you'd say, boy, this guy must be a good hitter. He's got 2 quote lucky hits. So
but I agree. That's some hammering right there.
Or you just got to be there. That's why they have scouts in the stands.
That's why they have TV.
Or watch it on TV in the hotel.
Yeah, box scores mean nothing. Remember they used to say they all look the same in a box score? Not anymore.
That's like Babe Herman, the outfielder for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And he complained because in the box score he had gotten 3 hits in the game, and he said you only recorded 2 hits.
You see the Hyundai keys to the game.
Yeah, they're right to beware the Glavine brothers.
Yeah,
sounds like
okay.
Bank robbers.
One last happy recap for Bob Murphy tonight.
Be on Kiner's Corner tonight.
That's right. It's going to be on that. But getting back to the story, he complained about the fact he only got 2 hits in the box score in the newspaper. And the guy that was the scorer said, no, that was a typographical error. He says, error, heck. It was a clean base hit in left field.
And this one will be, let's see, Cedeno is going to call off McEwen. Roger makes the catch. So Jack Wilson pops up for the second out. And Jason Kendall will bat.
Here's a guy that was unhappy because he wasn't traded by the Pirates to the San Diego Padres.
The Padres said you're making too much glue.
He still may be this winter. Stay tuned.
They'll make an adjustment probably at the contract. Although they say the Padres with their new stadium are going to increase spending. Right. I don't know if that has to go hand in hand, but there is some talk about that. They have a beautiful new stadium out there in San Diego.
That's precisely why the Pirates want the Padres to take as much as possible of Kendall's contract.
Pirates have a beautiful new stadium.
Oh yeah. You know what? And it's a gorgeous stadium, and it hasn't meant anything yet. No, because they've not. Their decisions weren't good. The judgments the Pirates made on deals when they moved to that ballpark were not good ones.
They moved one good one in Giles.
Yes, Giles was a trade, right?
He's now in San Diego.
I mean, think about this. One of the first big moves, and Lloyd McClendon stood up to make this sign, was Derek Bell. You forget that when Derek Bell left the Mets, he signed with a free agent with the Pirates and was a disaster. They had to eat almost 2 years a month.
Well, sometimes now with the young managers becoming younger and younger, they're making not only decisions on the player's talent, but also on their relationship with that player. When, for example, Lloyd McClendon was playing, he had a relationship or knew Derek Bell.
And Derek Bell had some good years with other ball clubs other than the Mets. but maybe they figured they'd have a great relationship with the Pirates because they got 3 rivers there, and he lived on the boat.
Yeah, that yacht floated right up, parking right outside the yard.
Look at that last pitch to Jason Kendall in strike zone.
Kendall is a player that gets hit by pitch balls quite often. He dives into the ball.
Another carom on Glavine. This will score a run. Coming in to score is Salomon Torres. And going all the way to third is Tike Redman on a base hit for Kendall.
Wow. Balls are ricocheting off Tom Glavine. He's ready to receive it as he sets. Watch this. Oh!
Ball caroming away from McEwing out into right center.
Well, this has been a tough year. Even the caroms aren't bouncing the right way for Glavine. When you're having a good year, that carom would go right to the fielder. It'd be a double play, and you're out of the inning.
So first and third, 2 outs and a run in. Frank Wilson bounced into a fielder's choice. So Torres, the starting pitcher, gets himself a run. And it's the first time the Pirates have led in this series. Pirates are flying to Chicago. They're not necessarily thrilled about the scheduling. They have a later start tonight. They fly to Chicago, play a day game tomorrow against the Cubs, and they face Mark Pryor, who right now is the hottest pitcher going.
How's it taking time? How about that game in Florida? 1-0, the Phillies on top of the Marlins during the 3rd inning. Can the Marlins not? They couldn't have a letdown after winning the first 2.
Well, this is an elimination, right? Elimination night for the Phillies. The Marlins win tonight, the Phillies are out. But Houston would still be alive if they win. Foul back by Wilson.
The Mets will be down in Florida tomorrow night, facing the Marlins Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Felipe Alubi, the manager of the year, will Jack McKeon, who replaced the manager, and Jeff Torberg, will Jack be the manager of the year. Should be a pretty good vote.
Aaron Heilman's going to pitch tomorrow night. Carl Pavano from Florida.
Everybody talking about the Cy Young Award. They're talking about Gagne. If Greg Maddux had Russ Ortiz win total, would he get the Cy Young Award hands down?
Yeah, but he had the rest of the line too.
What's that mean?
ERA, the whole thing.
Everybody's overlooking Russ Ortiz.
Wilson out to shallow right. Cedeno coming on. And Rogers gets there. So the inning ends, but a hit, or excuse me, 3 hits for the Pirates. Some well-placed hits. Give them the game's first run. You remember one thing if you're a Met fan. Bob Murphy could call a fight. He must have done boxing somewhere in his life. Remember this 30 years ago?
Ground ball hit down to first base. Milner has it, throws to Buddy Harrelson. 1 to first. Double play! And a fight breaks out. A fight breaks out. Pete Rose and Buddy Harrelson. Both clubs spill out of the dugouts. And a wild fight is going on. Jerry Kuzman's in the middle of the fight. Everybody is out there. Buddy Harrelson and Pete Rose got into it. Rose apparently thought that Harrelson had done something in making the double play. Rose outweighs Harrelson about 35 pounds.
I always remember there was a game, Ralph, remember this, in 1964. There was a collision at the plate. Big Ed Bailey was catching for the Milwaukee Braves. I think it was Ron Hunt went into him, and there was another brawl at home plate. And I've heard Murph's call of that. It's classic. And Murph liked those fights.
Well, that fight was a real good fight. And it was a mismatch. And Harrelson said, I hit him with my best punch, my chin to his fist. But Pete Rose weighed about 45 pounds more than Bud Harrelson. I mean, it was really a mismatch. And Rose just body slammed Harrelson to the ground. It was not pretty. And another thing about that fight was that Pedro Boran got it started again when he came in, took a cap and thought it was his cap, and took a bite out of the cap.
Remember that, yeah.
And that started another fight as he blindsided one of the Mets players, and it went on again.
There must have been some symbolism involved in the biting of the hat.
I guess so. I don't know what that was about.
It certainly didn't hurt anybody.
But you know that fight in Milwaukee, was it?
Yeah.
Casey Stengel came out in that fight, and Dennis Menke was pinned by Casey Stengel. Stengel had his arms around Menke, and Menke, of course, was younger and stronger, and he threw Casey Stengel off, and Stengel went to the ground. And he was lying on the ground, and Dennis looked out and saw it was Casey Stengel and says, "Oh my God, I killed the old man."
Torres strikes out Valandia. Then here comes Mike Glavine's at bat. You know, the other thing I noticed watching that tape of the '73 fight, the Rose Harrelson fight, I think Wayne Garrett was the first guy in. The second guy in was Jerry Grody, the catcher. Again, he saw a little scuffle. How fast must have he gone from home plate to second base?
He got out there in a hurry, yeah.
Glavine with a ground ball. He's out.
Jerry Grody at one time was the type of guy that was excited about either a fight or starting a fight. Of course, Jerry has mellowed over the years.
To some extent.
To some extent. He's less cantankerous.
Yeah, he got over it that way.
Here comes Tommy Glavine now, 2 outs and nobody on.
The one guy you didn't want to fight or get in the fight with him was Eddie Matthews.
Because?
He was tough.
He was just good.
And the shortstop would start all the fights, and Matthews would finish it.
Johnny Logan?
Johnny Logan. I'd say of all the Mets players, the one person you don't want to fight, you wouldn't want to be in close to him, is Kingman.
Oh, I saw him fight. He's out of control. Yeah, Keith Hernandez tells a great story about it. Keith had to try to stop him. He said there was a picture next day in the paper. Keith's hair was straight up in the air as Kingman ever does. As Bob Gibson told him next day, he said, "You should have punched him." He said, "Punch him? He chased me all over the ballpark."
Well, the other thing about Kingman was, Dave, he'd look at you, have fun. I mean, he had that look in his eye where you weren't quite sure sometimes.
I'm not sure he was on the same track.
3-1 to Glavine.
Clyde McCullough would be a perfect example of a tough fighter when I was playing. A catcher, and he would catch on hot days without a chest protector. So you wouldn't want to, you couldn't hurt him.
Oh, so he wasn't real bright either. I mean, he was tough and not real bright. What is that, an option? I'm not going to wear that today.
Optional equipment. I like that. And Tommy Glavine works out a walk. So with 2 outs, Torres issues his first base on balls. This copyrighted telecast presented by authority of Sterling Mets may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mets.
You were talking about Eddie Matthews, and Dusty Baker played for Eddie Matthews, and Dusty said not only could Eddie Matthews fight, but he liked to fight. That's a bad combination.
You just don't see that anymore, do you? Cedeno fouls it away, 1-1. Certainly didn't see it with Guillermo Mota this spring.
No. Quick first step.
Yeah. And quicker second. Dead sprint by the third. Cedeno with a bouncing ball to Rebelay. That takes care of the inning. So we've finished 3 at Shea, the final home game of 2003. The Pirates have a 1-0 lead. Another great moment in Met history is called by Bob Murphy. The National League Championship Series at Shea in '86.
Lenny Dykstra, the man they call Nails on the Mets ball club is waiting. Now the pitch. And a high fly ball hit the right field. It is fairly deep. It's way back by the wall. He did it! It's a home run! A home run! The Mets win the ball game! Dykstra
of the great. That still gives you some chills watching that one 17 years later. What a series. And we talked about this a little bit this month. Murph mentioned it today, Ralph, that game in Houston, Game 6, best baseball game. Murph thinks best baseball game he's ever seen.
It was a great game. Of course, the Mets scored 3 runs in the 9th inning to tie that game, and then went on to win it in the 16th after the Astros came back and tied up in extra innings. It was quite a game. I wasn't there for that game. I was on a cruise. But when I signed up for the cruise, I told them that the Mets got in the World Series. I was off the boat and back in New York to watch the series.
Hall of Fame cruise?
Yeah. And the guy that booked me for that cruise was Fran Healy.
Wigginton waited. He'll not get him now. Wigginton waited there, and he lost his chance.
Well, he had to wait for the hop. He had one other chance, and that was to charge it and take the half off. By waiting, he lost the chance for the out. And that will go as a base hit.
It brings up J.J. Davis. So, of course, Fran sent his personal plane, I assume, right, to the boat to bring you back for the World Series?
It was a canoe they sent.
And a rubber band.
But I was listening to that game on shortwave radio.
On the boat.
On the boat.
Foul back by Davis.
Yeah, we used to put together some sports cruises over the years with teams, and also Hall of Fame cruises, not only baseball, but basketball and other sports. And Ralph, of course, loved to wear a bathing suit, so we went on the cruise.
There is a difference between a boat and a ship, because I was in the Navy, and that's one thing I did learn. So I was on a ship. I wasn't on a boat.
Right. And nobody out here in the 4th. Pirates have a 1-0 lead. Probably going a little nuts right now in Florida. The Marlins. Davis fouls away. The Marlins just scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 3rd inning off Randy Wolf. That jumped out to that lead. Wow. So again tonight, the Marlins might be able to clinch tonight. They eliminate the Phillies if they win. That's for sure. You see the Cubs ahead too. But Houston, 3 games back, would still be alive if they win tonight.
And the Mets go down there tomorrow night, Saturday and Sunday. Catch all the action tomorrow night on Fox Sports Net.
So it could be a celebration tomorrow night in Florida.
Got those wild card standings for you. Here they come.
So that's right. So actually the Phillies would be out if they lose tonight. Houston and the Dodgers both play tonight, and they'll both stay alive if they win. Dodgers have 5 games left, so they still could win 89, which is the number Florida would have if they win tonight. And on a related note, we'll find out tomorrow if, and that's a clinch game for the Red Sox. They wrap it up if they win tonight, and they're off to a decent start.
You wouldn't want to lose that game. If you lose that game, I think Boston would close out.
So the Cubs in Houston look like it's going to be really the only race left in the final weekend. Let's take a look at the American League. There you see. So the Red Sox win tonight. Seattle doesn't play. It's over. The Red Sox are the wild card. They'll play Oakland, and the Yankees will play Minnesota.
I think the wild card would have been good for baseball, even in the 40s and 50s. I think it's great for baseball now.
Wild card is good. With as many teams playing, 30 teams, wild card makes a big difference and is good for the game of baseball.
I mean, everybody's focused on this race, the wild card race in both leagues. Of course, Central Division is still of interest to people, but going into the playoffs, we've had precedent set when those Marlins with Al Leiter won the World Series.
1997 and went all the way as the wild card entry.
Well, you had 2 wild card teams playing the World Series last year.
Has it ever happened? Has it ever happened where a manager was fired, somebody else took over and won it all?
I'm sure of that.
When?
1978 Yankees, right?
Yes.
Here's our Aflac trivia question for tonight about home batting average at Shea. Jason Phillips probably not going to get in tonight. He'll end up at 354. And 3 Mets who've had a higher Shea average in a single season. One of them is very close to us. I know that.
That's not the question we were talking about before when we were on the field earlier today with Keith Hernandez.
There's a double play ball with Glavine in a tough battle with Davis. Got him out, and then one pitch gets McCovey out. Double play ball. This is a September treat right here. 1 pitch equals 2 outs. Joe McEwing takes a ball to start the Met half of the 4th. 1-0 Pirate lead. And as we were saying, we'll find out tomorrow whether or not there's a possibility the Mets having to play a game here on Monday. The Commissioner's office tomorrow is expected to announce whether or not they would require the Giants to fly across the country to play here on Monday if that game is necessary for their battle with Atlanta. And again, everyone fervently, I think on both sides, just about everybody fervently hopes that they don't have to play that game, except the owner of the Giants, who surprisingly came out in the papers today and said, well, I think, it's a good idea. We should play.
Well, he really wants to play because they want to have a home field advantage if they would come back here and beat the Mets. And the problem with that is the fact that
see, there's a problem right there.
10 o'clock game would have to be.
Yeah, there's a problem. Jason Phillips is, I don't want to lose that plane ticket home with a Tri-State Consumer Auto Insurance quote book. Yeah, I've heard that if they have to play the game here Monday, I've heard it would be start somewhere from anywhere from 10 a.m. to noon. That early in the day, because San Francisco would have to turn right around, fly all the way back home, and play Tuesday afternoon against likely the Marlins. So the integrity of the postseason is not helped one bit by forcing those 2 teams to potentially play that game on Monday. I mean, you can talk about the integrity of the regular season all you want. The integrity of the postseason is thoroughly diminished to me if you force the Giants to have to do that.
The interesting part of that whole deal, the Mets had a chance to play that game, and the players voted no.
They would have been. There was one common off date, is when the Mets were on the West Coast at the end of August, and it would have left the Mets playing 31 consecutive days, which is against the players' basic agreement. So that's why the players were empowered to vote. Healy takes ball 4. So Torres walks his second man. Let's find out what the Duck leaves behind here, and the answer to our Aflac question.
The center fielder, number 6.
So one of them's close to us, I know that. And that would be our colleague, Keith Hernandez. Look at that, Cleon Jones and Stevie Wonder, Steve Henderson.
Hit a home run, was first at bat for the New York Mets.
Popped up by Timo Perez. And it's caught by Tike Redman. So McEwing goes back to first.
Ralph, the other coach we were talking about before, the first man in uniform to play off first base. The first baseman used to always stand on the base till this guy revolutionized the game of baseball by getting off the bat. He had something to do now, I think, with the Black Sox scandal.
His name is Chase?
Nope, the owner of the White Sox.
Comiskey?
Comiskey, first baseman. We think that's... We're talking about that today when we were working around first base with Keith Hernandez because of the possibility Mike Piazza going to first base. Keith was talking about what Mike would have to do to make the adjustment. Of course, Mike Piazza, by the way, through high school and college, was a first baseman. Became a catcher when he got in the pro ball.
Well, he's played there.
Oh, sure.
Now, whether or not it happens, for a couple of innings is now it's more, I think, PR than it is baseball. The runner goes, if that's a fouls it back. But as Matt Glavine, the Mets coach, was saying the other day, I mean, the test for Mike's going to be spring training next year. That's where you can make a position change. You can do it in spring training, as Ty Wigginton did this year, establishing himself as a third baseman.
Of course, the one thing that would change everything is if Mo Vaughn makes a comeback and is able to play for the Mets next year. He has to play first base. He cannot play any other position.
There's McEwen again. Piazza taps one. This is going to be a foul ball. Kovac wisely let it kick and it went foul. Well, I would say that an attempted return by Mo Vaughn next year would rank, if not at the bottom, near the bottom of things the Mets want.
That's right.
And quite honestly, it's hard to have any sense of how it could happen. Mo Vaughn worked so hard last winter. He was trainer in Columbus. Well, you know, from every report, he legitimately worked hard to try to get himself going, and his body just completely failed him. He could not physically play Major League Baseball this year.
You think when Mo showed up, he looked like he was in a type of shape?
When he showed up, he had lost weight.
Well, we didn't say, yeah. Now, what I didn't say was weight loss. And what I'm understanding is that Mo built his muscle mass up, kept his body weight the same. He was definitely in better condition. And his body couldn't handle it. It was just obvious he could not play Major League Baseball.
But he was at least 80 pounds overweight, and he lost about 6 pounds in that winter.
Right. Now what I'm saying, and
I mean, it's like throwing the deck chair off the Queen.
Oh yeah. So the only thing that I think would make a difference if Mo Vaughn were willing to go to Duke and go through a medically supervised weight loss program to lose that kind of weight.
He didn't look like he was in that good shape in spring training.
Okay, well, and that's ball 2-2. And the point is that, back to Ralph's original point, is that just the blunt truth is that would be about the worst thing that the Mets could see, would be Mo trying to come back and play, because he can't, and Mo would get his money, and the Mets would be able to recoup some of the insurance. Piazza hits one, and Wilson spears it, so that'll be a double play. Well, Mike hit that ball pretty sharply, but Wilson able to pick it off to the side and turns an inning-ending double play. Second that the Mets have hit into. And that gets us to the fifth at Shea. Our Mets baseball moment tonight brought to you by Mohegan Sun. As before the game tonight, well, there were multiple celebrations of Bob Murphy's 42 years as a Mets announcer. A small private gathering before the game, and then on the field where the Met fans had one more chance to express their love of what Bob has given them over 42 years of service. Presentations and gifts galore, including a uniform signed by Met players.
42, of course, the years that Murphy worked for the Mets.
I only wish we had the press conference earlier this afternoon, because Ralph had the championship lines.
It was a great turnout for
It really was.
No
it really was.
about that.
Somebody asked Murph and Ralph about what it was like broadcasting the 62 Mets, and Ralph, without blinking an eye, said,
well, I said the Mets finished 10th that year, and it's like a beauty contest. If you finish 10th in the beauty contest, that ain't bad at all.
So happy everyone just had National League Baseball back in New York.
That's right, yeah. After all those years, National League Baseball was back in New York.
2-2 here to Rebele.
And New York at that time was always a National League town, in spite of the Yankees and their great winning years they had, because Brooklyn and the Giants would always draw together more than the Yankees.
And Ralph, you had a very apt one-line description of the players on the 62 Mets.
Well, they asked, said, what about the team? And I said, well, the Mets in 62 have some great players, except they can't play.
And of course, Casey Stengel was the kind of the human windshield for that team, right? I mean, he took all the attention on himself reflected from the play on the field.
Well, the one thing about that Mets team in '62, they had Gil Hodges, a great player. Charlie Neal was a very good player. They had Don Zimmer, a very good player. They had Frank Thomas in left field. Maybe great player. Richie Ashburn is in the Hall of Fame, and Gus Felt.
Oh, look at that. That's a guy that got hit in the knee in the first inning, and Glavine pouncing on that nicely to throw out Rebel. One down in the fifth.
Glavine.
Yeah, and there's Mattty Loughlin.
All right, Ted. Well, of course, it's a night where the Mets organization honoring Bob Murphy, the Baseball Hall of Famer, calling his last game. And there's some guys here who grew up as childhood friends, Mets fans. And we'll talk first to Ed Phenia. And Ed, what does this night mean for you? Because you came out specially because of Murph's night here at Shea.
Absolutely. You know, this has been a horrible year for the Mets, but we all decided that coming out to see Bob Murphy's last game, you know, we're all Met fans, and we've been listening to him for 42 years. I mean, obviously, we all have, and it's part of our childhood, part of our whole adult life and everything. And it's something that he's going away, kind of part of our whole childhood and stuff is going away.
I think that does sum up what everyone's thinking tonight. Jim Colhane, you were saying this is your childhood.
I've been a Met fan since I've been born, and Bob Murphy's part of my life. And to not be here tonight, I couldn't imagine doing something like that. This guy he is the voice of New York baseball to me, and I love him. I've met him once in my life, but I feel like he's a friend. I feel like he is part of the family. And Bob Murphy, God bless you, good luck, and I hope you have all the happy recaps you could ever imagine in your life, because you deserve them.
Those are very kind words, and Jim Egan, everybody was talking about how you'd have those transistor radios tuned in, whether you're at the beach or maybe late at night trying to fall asleep listening to Murph.
Absolutely. Whenever you needed a update on the Mets, especially when you're not in front of the TV, you know Murph is going to give you the honest answer. Give you the update on the game, and we're hopefully, as you said, happy recaps we always wanted to hear.
All right, fellas, we appreciate your time, and let's get back to the ball game, guys.
All right, Mattty, thank you. You know what that last gentleman pointed out is what makes baseball broadcasting, I think, so unique. There's really no other facet of this profession that allows you to bond with people you've never met than being a baseball announcer. The daily nature of this job, being in homes as you were, Ralph, all your years working on the radio side as well. When you're in the homes of people, in their cars, with them wherever they go, day in and day out for 6 months.
And the day in and day out is the important part. And you think about all the people who are unable to work or are in hospitals or in old-time homes, older people and things like that. They live for the baseball game. It's their day. It makes their day, and it's day in and day out.
The other thing you learn about the power of radio is for those who are visually impaired. And that's something that we often don't think about. We lose track of it. It hits you very, very squarely when you find people who don't have their sight, and their lifeline to following baseball, to following the world, is through the radio. Left field shallow, and nice break back by Valandia. So Tike Redman dinked 2 in, this time foiled by Valandia. Bob Murphy appreciation night. We're halfway through. Here's the first pitch, and Ty Wigginton drives one to deep left field, and it is going to be gone. A home run to tie the game. First pitch of the bottom of the 5th, and Ty Wigginton, with his 11th home run of the year, ties this game. And you know, Ralph, that is precisely what we've talked a lot about in September with Ty Wigginton. He's got the power. It's getting that knack to pull the baseball instead of hitting those long ones to dead center.
He set a Met rookie record for doubles, and now pulling the ball to left field for his 11th home run of the year.
Now, can you learn to pull the ball as a hitter?
Yes, you can. It's more pitch selection than anything else. And of course, it's where you stand in the batter's box. He's about average where he stands, and anything inside he should pull to left field for the chance for the home run.
Now where? Okay, there he is. Now where would you say where you stand in the batter's box?
Right through here. If he were here, you'd have a better chance of pulling this pitch out
The
here.
outside pitch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a long list. You didn't have this problem, but there's a long list of hitters who learned to hit home runs after they got to the big leagues. You know, after the first couple of years in the big leagues became. And we talked about Alfonso the other day. He did that with the Mets. They think Wigginton can develop or has the ability to hit more home runs. And of course, in this ballpark, you're not going to make your money hitting the ball straight away.
More than 10 feet to center field, and Wilson at shortstop has had a pretty hard day out there. Some balls hit hard. Piazza had one down, and he turned it into an out. This ball hit hard. Here's the overhead side of the ball that was out, maybe on this part of the plate there, and he pulled the ball into left field.
I love that shot also because it shows you how far in front of the plate generally the bat meets the ball.
You have to get the hands out in front to pull the ball.
That overhead shot's the one view that really brings that home. Usually watch see how far in front of the plate is when the bat meets the ball.
And the bat is straight in that area right there, so the hands are out where they should be, and then the speed of the bat picks the ball up and pulls it into left field. Bat going about 125 miles an hour.
Mike Glavine now, 2 outs, nobody on. 11 home runs for Wigginton, 70 runs batted in his rookie year. Rookie of the year voting is going to be interesting, right? Ball is fair, and it's played by Craig Wilson. On to Torres for the out, so the Mets will settle for 1, but Wigginton gets Tom Glavine even in the game as we go to the 6th. Official Mets merchandise catalog to pick up your orange BT jersey, Hawaiian Mets shirt, caps, visors, much more. Call 877-THE-GAME to get your copy of the Mets merchandise catalog. Well, there'll be no loss tonight for Tom Glavine, but there'll be no win. The Mets make a double switch. Tony Clark enters at first base, and Grant Roberts takes over on the mound in the 6th inning. Grant Roberts' last appearance was a rough one here at Shea on Sunday afternoon against Montreal. He came in the 9th inning in a tie game, faced 5 batters. They all got hits, although 2 of them were fly balls to the deep parts of right center field that were not played by the Mets outfield.
And Glavine going out of this ball game cannot win or lose the game, and he will have a losing record. And that will be the first losing record he's had in any one season, dating all the way back to the start of the 1990s.
Jack Wilson faces Roberts and hits a high pop-up. Raul Gonzalez comes over and puts it away. You know what I think, Ralph and Fran, I think the number that's going to eat a little bit of time with this winter, he ends the season 108 innings, and I think that's going to eat at him a little bit. Here's a guy that prides himself on being a 200-plus inning guy.
Well, he did have some injury problems that shut him down for a while, but well, the whole year has got to get to him. Yep. I mean, this guy has some great stats.
And I'm sure that'll be something that when Tom comes out next spring, I'm sure internally that'll be a goal, is to get back and be that 200 to 210 inning guy that the ball club can count on.
Gave up a grand slam home run this year, first time in his career that he has allowed a grand slam home run.
That's something.
Well, Jim Palmer never did.
Never did.
And he had a long career, never gave up a grand slam home run.
Can you think of any great hitters who never hit a grand slam? You hear about that all the time. You hear about Palmer never giving up one. I'm wondering if there are any.
I don't think any great hitters.
Yeah, really good home run hitters who never hit a grand slam. Remember, Kirby Puckett hit one after about 9 years in the big leagues.
That's a long time.
Yeah. He hit his first big league grand slam. He said it was the first grand slam he'd hit since Little League. Do you believe it? Never hit one in high school, never hit one in college, never hit one in the minors. Fly ball out by Kendall, 2 down. That'll be part of a live taping of MSG Network's Unnecessary Roughness. You can huddle with diehard football fans as Kurt and Jay talk Jets and Giants football. Sean Williams guests. Live taping takes place tomorrow night at 7:30. You can enter at 7th Avenue and 32nd Street, right in front of the theater at Madison Square Garden. At 7:30 entry tomorrow night at 7th and 32nd in front of the theater at the Garden. Admission free, seats are limited. Craig Wilson, 2 outs. The Marlins continuing to lead the Phillies tonight in the 5th inning now at 4-1. And the Cubs have a lead in the 6th inning at Cincinnati. If the current standings hold up, the Marlins and the Giants would play in the first round of the National League playoffs. And the Braves would play either the Cubs or the Astros.
The Cubs have not played in the World Series and won a World Series since 1908. The last time they played in the World Series was 1945.
And they went 39 years after that until they won again. They won in 1984 and then won the first 2 games in a best-of-5 playoff. They're 1 win from getting back to the series and lost 3 straight to San Diego.
And the culprit in that series was Steve Garvey. He had a great series for San Diego.
The Cubs won again in '89, won the division, lost the NLCS. And since the wild card came in, they've won once in '98 as the wild card and lost 3 straight to Atlanta. So there hasn't been any postseason success in a long time. But I'll tell you what, I think if the Cubs play the Braves in the first round, I think that would be one of the better matchups in a long time. Not sure who that is under there. Oh, Salomon Torres. You talk about the Cubs pitching with Pryor and Kerry Wood against the way the Braves have hit this year, and that's a terrific matchup.
And they say pitching dominates, and they say in this case might be right. But they have 2 outstanding pitchers, and they really come at you. I mean, it's not tricks or anything like that. They come at you with 95-mile-an-hour fastballs and great curveballs.
And Brad Roberts, nice inning. 2 fly balls, then a strikeout of Craig Wilson, and we move on here at Shea to the last of the 6th in a 1-1 tie. Well, fans, if you're coming out to Shea next week for the Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band concerts, we encourage you to take mass transit. You can take the Long Island Railroad. They'll be stopping at the Shea Stadium exits. You can hop on the 7 train to Willets Point Shea Stadium, or even enjoy a New York Waterway ferry ride. All the details on mass transit at METS.com.
And it's time for the Coors Light Silver Bullet 6th. Michael Kutowski from East Meadow, New York, is today's lucky fan. That means that if the Mets hit a home run this inning, Michael wins dinner for 2 down at the Hats. So, Michael, enjoy the ride.
So here's Tony Clark. He'll be followed by Cedeno and McEwen. Clark with 16 home runs. The Mets are going to likely end up the season without a 20 home run hitter. That is in large part due to trades and injury. Burnett's left with 18. Cliff Floyd went out with 18.
Burnetski has 30.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, quite a year for the Dodgers and the Mets.
Last 20 years, 1992, the only year the Mets did not have a 20 home run hitter. Bonilla led that year with 19. balls and 1 strike. I'm looking up at the scoreboard. I'm noticing the Tigers are leading again tonight in the 8th inning, which means they have a chance to win 3 games in a row.
And they're beating Minnesota 3-1. Tigers with a chance to tie the Mets all-time loss record of 120. And the Mets started in 1962.
Putting on a kick, though.
Big difference is it really isn't the same type of a condition. The Mets, of course, lost their 120 games when there was no free agency.
Right.
And you got to pick your players out of a pool, and the pool wasn't very strong.
Clark's out on strikes. It is the 3rd strikeout for Torres.
Well, the Chief game summary: 1-1. The score: Kendall 1 for 3, a single, and the run batted in. Wigginton with a home run is the 11th of the year. Glavine went 5. ND there, and Torres of the Pirates has gone 5 in the 3rd, and he's given up just 2 hits.
Tommy Glavine hit on the knee in the 1st inning tonight. Looked like he might not be able to continue, but he did stay in and finish 5 good innings. Grant Roberts took over for the 6th. Cedeno now batting with a 1-1 count. Of course, that Tiger thing is so weird because I mean they're an established team. The Mets were an expansion team. As you said, we've given players that nobody wanted. The Tigers have fallen into this of their own action.
Some of the problem might be the owner of the Tigers. He also owns the hockey team.
Cedeno up the middle, Rebele. Nice play, and he gets Cedeno. That's a 38-year-old second baseman, Jeff Rebele, making this play.
All the way with Rebele as he makes a really outstanding play to pick up the 2nd out of the inning.
I mean, honestly, that's not a guy that looks 38, is it?
Really went a long way from that ball. Oh, yeah, he looks like 38.
There he does. Zoom out, Webby. Much nicer. McEwing was grounded out and walked.
Well, the Tigers really a strange. They say the owner has taken his baseball money he gets for being a small market team, and he's put it into his hockey team. Of course, the Red Wings are a tremendous hockey franchise, and
I would think there would be some owners who would not be happy about that. Baseball.
I think so, yeah.
Or
the
hockey
money is supposed to stay in baseball.
Right. And there's another team with a new ballpark, and it hasn't meant anything for them. McEwing goes the other way, and there's a hit. It's the 3rd hit for the Mets. Piazza with a single in the 2nd. Wigginton homered in the 5th, and now McEwing with a 2-out single in the 6th.
Good job here of going with the pitch. Ball is off the plate just outside, and he goes with the pitch. Good extension. Then a line drive to right field. This is perfect right here. Ewan, of course, has done a good job as a utility man. He's had to play a lot of second base here of late.
A ball to Timo Perez.
For some of these players with the Mets, it might be the last time they'll play with the New York Mets uniform.
Here at Shea Stadium, well, when you lose as many games as the Mets are this year, there are very few people that can leave feeling safe. Of course, the funny thing in baseball now is it doesn't seem to matter. There's change whether you win or lose. San Francisco got to the 7th game of the World Series last year and had 4 new starters on opening day this year.
That's pretty amazing. Of course, they lost Jeff Kent.
Right.
And he was one of the main cogs of that ballpark.
But they have Bonds.
And that's the constant.
That's
exactly
all
right.
That matters.
Exactly right. You know, as they head into the postseason, after a terribly disappointing year. The guy that is finally hitting just in the last couple of weeks is Alfonso, and he's now hitting behind Bonds.
Marquise Grissom had a good year.
Very good year.
Another ex-Met player. It was a major part of his career. He didn't play for the New York Mets.
Two and one now to Timo. And now 2-2.
Timo got to have some doubts in his mind whether he'll be back.
Ewing running, ball fouled away. You know, it's funny when you look at it, guys, because Timo Perez last year really did have a very good year for the Mets. I mean, he had a terrific hitting year and was not rewarded for it. He did not come to spring training with a starting position, even though he had earned it with his play. And now this year, when opportunity's been given to him, he has not taken advantage. He's entering that dangerous realm in baseball. He'll be an arbitration eligible guy this winter. Fouled away again. You know, one of the great baseball axioms for years, Ralph, I'm sure you went through this even when you were a GM. You're not supposed to believe what you see in April or September.
That's very true, because things are different in those months.
I think, Ralph, Fran, I think the Mets may be well served to violate that this September. I think this September they are seeing some things that are good for them to realize. Places where they're short, places where certain guys are not ready.
The Mets have had a very, very bad September. And averages have come down. The hitting has been almost nil.
Pretty much started when Jose Reyes went down. And Mike Piazza talked to me about that yesterday. It just took the wind out of the sails of the Mets when Reyes went down. He brought a lot of energy to the ball club, a lot of excitement to Shea Stadium.
Popped up by Perez. Playable for Kendall. And he'll make the catch. So 6 innings complete here at Shea. Timo unhappy. The Pirates and the Mets still tied at 1. One apiece as we go to the 7th inning on the final home game of the year. And let's hear Bob Murphy's call of one of the greatest baseball games ever played.
Now the stretch. The pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Strike him out. Strike him out. Let's win it. The Mets have won it. They're in the World Series. Oh, they are mobbing Jesse Orozco.
Now that's the 16-inning game we're referring to in Houston. Game 6 of the '86 playoffs. You could hear it in Murph's voice. What an incredible
it was great
game that was.
It was a really unbelievable game. And Keith Hernandez, the first baseman, came to the mound and said to Orozco, who was the pitcher in that spot, and Kevin Bass was the hitter. And Keith said, you throw this, and it was not exactly these words, I'm going to come to the mound, I'm going to beat the hell out of you. If you throw him anything but a curveball. They struck him out with that curveball.
Jason Bay over the head of Wigginton, and there's his second hit, leading off the 7th for Pittsburgh. Well, speaking of Houston, they're in that battle with the Cubs, and right now, read those scores across. Not up and down. It's 8-5 Cincinnati. The Reds with a big bottom of the 6th inning to take a lead, and Houston is ahead of Milwaukee.
Well, and they had Pryor on the mound. That's going to be a big loss for the Cubs. Pryor has been almost invincible.
Yeah, actually, Pryor's going to pitch tomorrow.
Oh, is that right?
Pryor pitches tomorrow at home against Pittsburgh.
But it's still a killer, too.
Right. But they'll go home. The Cubs will finish at home with Pittsburgh. Astros finish at home with Milwaukee. And that's the one race that looks like it may come down to Sunday and perhaps even Monday.
Yeah, and when you're in Cincinnati, you're the Cubs. You got your pitching staff. You got Sosa. You got to win that ball game.
How about last night? One of the most surprising events of the year. Sean Estes being pulled out of limbo and throws a shutout in a huge game for him in Cincinnati.
He was a mystery with the Mets. He had good stuff, and he has stuff to be a pretty big winner, but just never got it together consistently.
He had the one good year with the Giants. I mean, this guy has a curveball as good as anybody's.
Hey, by the way, how about Florida on top of Philly? 5-1 in the 6th inning. Wow.
That's Brad Penny pitching tonight for Florida. And again, the Marlins can eliminate the Phillies tonight, but they can't clinch yet. Houston and the Dodgers both have a chance to stay alive in the wild card if they win tonight. And there's a strike. 1-1 to J.J. Davis. I was thinking if the Cubs have to play Monday, they start prior tomorrow, and they've got Wood on Sunday. They don't have one of their two big guns if they wind up having to play a Monday playoff game with Houston.
Big discussion would be, is it better to fight all the way down to the end, or to win handily and come in with rest, say, and set your rotation up?
That's a left field. Gonzalez there. So Davis out. Bay hustles back to first. New York Mets baseball brought to you in part by the most respected, honored, and heroic 4x4s out there, only in a Jeep 4x4. Which way do you think, Ralph? Do you think there's an advantage either way?
I think it's better to be able to set your pitching rotation up and have it won easily, because when you get mentally exhausted when you have those to the end.
Randy, what do you think?
I agree with Ralph.
That's the first time this year.
No, I agree with you all times.
I'm not sure, because I've seen it both ways. You know,
yeah, it does work. It can work two ways.
The one that jumps into my mind is the race I talked about earlier tonight, the 93 race between Atlanta and San Francisco, where they were the two best teams on the planet. And that race to the final day, the Braves won 104 games, won the division, and then lost to the Phillies in the playoffs, and they were just out of gas. The Braves got to the playoffs, and they flat out had nothing left in the tank.
I thought
pushing so hard.
I thought what hurt the Braves over the years, except for Smoltz, they didn't have guys that could blow you off the field. They had to have pinpoint control in short series, and I think that hurt them.
Well, mainly we were talking about Mattx and Glavine.
Right, but those were your big guys for a number of years.
You know what I always thought? I always thought the Braves, and this year's team may be the exception. Honestly, the Braves were a team that were built for the 162.
Yes.
And their advantage was always, the Braves' huge advantage was always the days the third, fourth, and fifth guys would pitch. Their third, fourth, and fifth guys were always miles ahead of everybody else's. And so over the 162, that advantage. But you get to the playoffs, and they've got Greg Mattx, but he's pitching against Randy Johnson in game one. And Tom Glavine faces Kurt Schilling in game two, and there's no advantage there.
And the big thing, we have the hard throwers. They can make a mistake, belt high, 2-0, hitter fouls it off. Control pitcher makes that same mistake, damage is done with the bat.
Piazza's throw there, but the ball eludes Valandia, and Jason Bay's going to end up at third.
Ball should have been caught.
It was a good throw.
Yeah, that's what
made
it was.
A perfect throw, no question about it, and the ball was not handled by the shortstop. So Mike Piazza will have a stolen base.
Well,
charge against him.
It shouldn't be an error on Mike Piazza. This ball should have been caught.
Let's see how it happened. Yeah, he just missed it. I thought maybe the runner might have jarred it, but no.
He's out if he catches it.
Yeah, Valandia just missed the ball.
And when you're no, that's no ET.
Well, there's no way that.
No way. but that should be an E6 right there. There shouldn't even be a caught stealing ball. Beat him. And with the way Mike Piazza has been struggling throwing the ball to second base, he needs that.
So now a walk to Makoviak, and what the Mets needs double play ball. The lead run at third base and 1 out. Tomorrow night, MSG Network. Another version of the Boomer Esiason Show presented by Samsung as Boomer asks the tough questions of a great lineup of celebrity guests. The Boomer Esiason Show tomorrow night at 11 on MSG Network. Well, Boomer's gonna ask tough questions, Fran. A celebrity guest. I think Ralph needs to do that. Because no one handles the tough. No one will handle the tough questions like Ralph.
You know what's amazing to me, when you get someone that so-called asks tough questions, why do you answer?
It's a good point.
Just get up and walk off.
Dramatic. You don't take it. You're one of the few guys that refuses.
Well, the great one was Bob Elson. I worked with him in 1961. He was the announcer for the White Sox for years and years and years, and we'll get back to that right after this message.
All right, Serta coming in for the Met bullpen. And we'll be right back to Shea. Well, it's when you know you've made it, too. You get a file. And the Bob Murphy file is our Fast Facts, brought to you by Panasonic. And there are the numbers, and, of course, there's nothing like that bottom one being inducted into the broadcasters wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame 9 years ago.
And we're talking about Bob Elson. Bob Elson's also in that Broadcasters Hall of Fame, and he would interview ball players and would ask him a question and then walk out of the booth and leave the ball player there by himself. And they'd talk until they came back, and he wouldn't come back maybe for 5 minutes. All they had to do was stop talking.
Was that done to try to train the...
No,
or
it was
just done so he had to go out and take care of something?
His wife, I was trying to make it tough on the ball player.
Wow.
And it used to be laughable.
And you obviously speak from experience because you worked with him.
That's right. One whole year I worked with him. I saw him do it time after time.
So here is Abraham Nunez pinch hitting for the Pirates, and Jaime Cerda is on the mound for the Mets. First and third, 1 out for the Pirates in the 7th inning. Ball line to left, tagging up his Bay. Gonzalez makes the catch, but Jason Bay is going to come in and be safe despite a terrific throw. And to second base out there on a great tag by McEwen. Well, that play was closer at the plate than I thought it'd be. Terrific throw by Gonzalez. Jason Bay slid in safely. And then Makoviak out at second. 2-1. So the Mets now trail 2-1. This is a terrific play on Hollins. Gonzalez makes a nice throw here.
Outstanding throw by Gonzalez to cut down a runner at the plate, or miss the runner at the plate. But watch the throw by Piazza, cutting down a runner at second base.
Well, maybe. Let's see if he's really out here.
Well, Joe McEwen makes the grab. You see the runner tagging up at first base and tries to hustle to second. Piazza comes up throwing. Short house McEwen. And he's called out. We'll take a look at the runner at third base, tagging up Raul Gonzalez's long throw. And it's a bang-bang play at the plate, and then Piazza throws the ball to second base, and they get the runner. So, an RBI, a sacrifice fly, and Piazza cutting down the runner, trying to advance to second base. So the Pirates now with a 2-1 lead as we go to Mike Piazza in the bottom of the 7th inning. Nunez is at second base. Take a look at Mike Piazza swinging that bat. You see our Dreyfus look at Piazza's numbers. Career average against the Pirates, pretty good average, highest average of any active player with at least 200 at-bats against the Buccos. The Doggo, young, Bagwell and Gonzalez rounding off the numbers.
And Piazza leads off the 7th with a hit. So Mike 2 for 3. Continuing to swing a little bit better bat here. Just getting the singles going. And now Wigginton will hit.
Take a look at this. Mike Piazza said the most important thing to him was to strengthen his arms and hands. For that reason there, if you're fooled, you're strong enough to get the ball into the outfield. We've seen him do that time and again with 2 hands and a lot of times with 1 hand. But he had a pair of grippers he used to use with the Dodgers in L.A. They were so tough to grip that when Darryl Strawberry joined the Dodgers, Tommy Lasorda said to him, let me see if you can use these grippers. Darryl thought they were locked. He couldn't move them, and Mike Piazza used them all the time, therefore built up his hands and forearms and is able to do what he just did.
Grippers meaning those things you squeeze?
Hand grippers.
Hand grippers, right. So Ty Wigginton been responsible for the Mets' lone run tonight. And he'll hit here against Torres in the 7th. Pirates bullpen is active. Mets bullpen, I'm sure, will get active. They're winding towards where Serta is due to hit. As Wigginton takes the ball, this is his 5th inning home run.
And Ty Wigginton got it off. Drove it down that left field line and over the wall. So Ty Wigginton, a solo home run. We got a 2-1 ball game.
Ball up a little bit, 1-1. Talking about the rookie of the year, there is the lefty Graybo, the righty Meadows. Pirate bullpen. The Wigginton is 10 RBIs better than Miguel Cabrera of Florida for the rookie lead. And remember, Cabrera didn't even play till the end of June.
No, in fact, the Mets were in Florida when Cabrera came out of the minor leagues. Jack McKeon took over the club. He saw him in spring training. They brought him up, and they told me that they felt he would be like Pujols. He was playing third base in the minor leagues, and they put him in left field with the Marlins.
Wigginton leading the league in rookie RBIs. That's 1 to 3rd here. He's going to have to hustle to beat out the relay. Got him, double play.
Right around the horn, 5-4-3, as Wigginton is not able to drive that ball. Well, that was tailor-made, and Nuno's turning it at second base. So a 5-4-3 double play. Score remains 2-1 in favor of the Buccos. Raul Gonzalez will hit.
2 down. Now that rookie voting in the National League will be curious because Scott Pasednik has the strongest case of all the position players. The Brewers outfielder hitting .314, got 170 hits, 43 steals.
You know what? It'd be good for the Milwaukee Brewers to have somebody take an award like that. Brewers need something to help the organization.
And of course, Dontrell Willis, 13 wins, and he's going to have an awful lot of support.
He's the glamour choice.
And funny that I just saw this the other day, the San Francisco coaches staff all voted for Brandon Webb, the Diamondbacks starter.
Good pitcher.
And Webb had a horrible outing the other night. He got hammered in Coors Field, and even with that outing, his ERA is still 2.75.
Webb with a good sinker, slider. Very important part of that Diamondback staff. Pitched a whale of a ball game here early in the year against the Mets.
Interesting, most pitched by a rookie in the National League, Jae-Young Sung. 182 innings. More than Webb or Willis.
If he could have caught some breaks, he'd have a much better record. If he could have gotten some runs, as you look at our Delta Airlines upcoming schedule, tomorrow at 7:30, Fox Sports Net. Fox 5 on Saturday. That's a 1 p.m. start. Sunday, 1:30. That will be the last game of the season for the Mets. And the Marlins, we think, will head to the playoffs. They have a 5-2 lead now down in Florida on top of the Phillies. They're in the 6th inning. Dontrell Willis, who pitched that Sunday game if needed.
I'd much rather save him for Tuesday in San Francisco, his hometown, where he pitched game 1 of the playoffs.
His mom works in construction over in the Berkeley area, Oakland area.
3-2 now to Gonzalez.
That's quite a story, isn't it? Wow.
The home Marlins some story this year.
Yes, they are.
And I think they are going to give San Francisco if that's indeed the matchup, one heck of a run. And there's a walk, so Gonzalez on with 2 outs. And I'll go on the limb right here. I'm going to predict the Marlins will beat the Giants in the first round.
The way the Marlins are catching some breaks and doing the job with their talent, they might win the whole thing. Did you see the matchup between Billy Wagner last night and Barry Bonds?
Yeah.
My God. Billy Wagner was throwing the ball 100 miles an hour. Barry Bonds, who has a 208 batting average as a pinch hitter, came off the bench. I'm sure he was thinking, what am I doing here? Batting in this, and Billy Wagner was wired.
100 miles an hour straight.
They couldn't even catch him.
Pirates going to make some switches here. Jose Hernandez will come in, and they'll bring a reliever in with Jason Phillips coming out of the dugout to pinch hit for the Mets. Boyd McClellan going through all the maneuvers with Ed Montague. So we're in the bottom of the 7th at Shea. The Pirates lead the Mets 2-1, and we'll be back. Bob Murphy will join Ralph on Kiner's Corner after our game tonight here on Fox Sports Net. Where were you when this happened?
And the pitch by Stanley, and a ground ball trickling. It is a fair ball. Picked by Buckner. Rounding third right. The Mets will win the ball game. The Mets win.
That's one of those moments you will always remember where you were.
Unfortunately, Mookie Wilson is remembered mostly for that, and so is Bill Buckner, who was a borderline Hall of Famer. As you look at Hernandez, he's in the ball game at third base.
Kobiak's gone out to right field. J.J. Davis has come out of the game, and Brian Meadows has come in to pitch. Meadows pitched 1/3 of an inning. Wigginton got him out here on Tuesday night.
You see Meadows' numbers, but don't forget after the game, Kiner's Corner, Bob Murphy will be Ralph's special guest. Final Kiner's Corner for the season. As the Mets travel south to Florida for tomorrow night, Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. All the game, well, I should say Friday and Sunday. Catch all the action right here on Fox Sports Net.
Well, Jason Phillips has been out a couple days with a tweak to the hamstring. It's been some year. He's got an even .300 batting average. And he plays one more game, he'll get to 400 at-bats for the year, 397.
The most he's ever had in one season.
About 420 1 year in the minors, back in the low minors. Matt Watson is on deck.
Most he's ever had, and he said that, you know, he's obviously somewhat concerned about next year. If he does a whole lot of catching, those numbers are going to go down offensively.
Right field and foul.
Take a look at our OTB finishing line. And it's all about the right-hander, Salomon Torres. You see 51 strikes thrown in 6 2/3 innings. Struck out 3. Boy, you know, you mentioned it before, Ted. They considered him a potential star in the major leagues when he came up with the Giants, didn't they?
The San Francisco Giants in the summer of 1993 had a chance to trade for Dennis Martinez, who at that time was still a strong pitcher. They had a chance to pick him up for the stretch run, and they refused to trade Salomon Torres. And had San Francisco traded for Martinez, I think it's pretty safe to say they'd have won more than 103 games that year and won their division. And that's the dilemma you face when you have that trade deadline. How good is a kid? Back by Phillips. How good is a kid who, after all, is still a kid? When you've got a chance to get a proven
player
to win.
It's funny though, the temptation is to keep the kid because you feel you got some years. But boy, oh boy, if you're wrong with your projection, how many times has that happened?
And I think the other element that comes into it is You know, it's one thing to make those kinds of trades if you're a 500 ball. It's another thing when you're a good team. And that year in San Francisco was a good team. That ball hit Phillips.
So Meadows hits Phillips, and the tying run goes to second base.
Batsman of the year for Phillips, and it will get Matt Watson in here as a pinch hitter. And it will get Scudero in as a runner.
For Jason Phillips, number 26, Marco Scudero.
We're talking about the games in the National League that have importance. In the American League tonight, the Red Sox are about to wrap up the wild card berth. They're 1 inning away from doing that. We've had another terrific feat tonight as Watson takes a ball in Toronto. Carlos Delgado of the Blue Jays has hit 4 home runs tonight. He hit his 4th of the game in the bottom of the 8th, and the Blue Jays lead 10-8 now in the 9th, so it's unlikely he's going to hit again. But 4 home runs for Delgado, giving him 41 and 141 RBIs this year.
He was a catcher at one time. They moved him to first base, try him in the outfield. One thing he can do is he can hammer the baseball. First American leaguer to hit 4 home runs in one game, Lou Gehrig. He almost hit a 5th. He hit a double. And the next day, well, that day, well, the following day, in the newspapers in New York, he was not on the back page. He was lost in the news of the day because John McGraw retired.
Watson dribbles one. That'll be the end of the inning. So the Mets strand 2 will go to the 8th. It's 2-1 Pirates. Well done, Salomon Torres.
Nobody called baseball games any better than that guy right there, Bob Murphy. How about his call of the final out of the 1986 World Series? Let's listen.
He struck him out. Struck him out. The Mets have won the World Series. And they're jamming and crowding all over Jesse Orasco. The dream has come true.
Yeah, Bob Murphy night here at Shea Stadium. Quite a celebration. The Mets put on some great festivities before the ball game, not only on the field, but up here on the broadcast level. Keep in mind that radio broadcast booth is the Bob Murphy broadcast booth.
Good call.
And over here is Ralph Kiner's broadcast booth on TV.
We're just renting space, aren't we?
We are just renting space, and of course we're going to hear some more audio from Bob Murphy. And keep in mind, after the ball game, Kiner's corner, the 2 vets will talk Met baseball.
When we get to the final out in the 9th, as you see Joe McEwing, who's now at shortstop. Scudero's at second. When we get to the final out in the 9th, we're going to listen to Murph, how he handles it on the Mets radio network.
42 years of special broadcasting by Bob Murphy. And we owe it all to his brother, Jack Murphy.
Here's a base hit for Jose Hernandez in his first at-bat tonight.
When Bob Murphy came out of the Marines, he talked to his brother Jack, and Jack said, try this new thing called baseball broadcasting. He ran into another gentleman from Oklahoma named Kurt Gowdy. Kurt Gowdy brought him to Boston for 6 years. He went on to Baltimore. Of course, New York reaped the benefits of the Murph.
Tike Redman 2 for 3 tonight. Trying to hear what that chant is. I can't make it out. It's that time of year. You hear all sorts of different things.
A nice turnout tonight for the Murph.
Yeah, I mean, that was good to see.
Yes, it was.
A midweek home finale with 2 teams where the Pirates and Mets are. The crowd has thinned out a little bit. There was a nice turnout, an enthusiastic turnout for Bob Murphy. Dan Wheeler finishing up. First time he's ever spent a full year in the bullpen in the big leagues. This is his 34th relief appearance. He did spend the first 6 weeks of the year in the minors. And Redman drills a base hit into right field. So the Pirates get going here in the 8th, 2 on, nobody out.
Take a look at that wild card update. We take a look down in Florida, 6-2. The Marlins, now it's 8.
Ooh.
It's 8-2. The Marlins on top of the Phillies. Milwaukee losing to Houston 3-1. Look at the Marlins. Boyle, what a story that is in South Florida. Philadelphia is going to go home. Larry Bowa might jog back to Philadelphia. He might say, you know what, you guys take the train. I'm going to run a little bit of my anxiety off. I'll jog up 95.
Well, I'll tell you what will be interesting. The Red Sox are 3 outs away from wrapping up the American League wild card.
Look at that.
That's the American League to rest if they do that. I'll tell you, man, you must have been an Etch-a-Sketch freak when you were a kid. Yeah. So the Gonzalez calling off McEwing, so a pop-up off the bat of Jack Wilson for the first out.
So the Red Sox with that 14-3 lead. How about Toronto? You mentioned 4 dingers.
Yeah, 4 bombs by Delgado tonight.
Last guy to do that. Was he a member of the St. Louis Cardinals?
Last guy to hit
4 home runs in 1 game?
In 1 game.
Sean Green did it
last year. Yeah. And Sean Green actually had that rare chance. He came up with a chance to hit a 5th. I mean, almost. I think it's around, what, just maybe around 20 guys have done it.
Joe Adcock, Willie Mays.
Willie Mays was on deck when that game ended in Milwaukee when he hit 4. And he had a chance. He was 1 batter away from having a swing at a 5th.
Mark Whitten did it for the Cardinals.
Jason Anderson. And last year there were 2 guys because Mike Cameron did it early in the year for the Mariners at Comiskey Park in Chicago.
That's right.
Green did it in Milwaukee. I saw it once in person as a student. Mike Schmidt at Wrigley Field. And Ralph made a reference earlier to something that was funny. It was a ball game. The Cubs led 12-1 after 3 innings at Wrigley Field. And Mike Schmidt hit his 4th home run of the day in the 10th inning to win the game for the Phillies, 18-16.
You know, Bobby Wine told me after his 3rd, he wanted to come out of the game.
Really? Fouled by Kendall.
I guess they reconsidered.
Well, it's funny because he hit his 3rd. The Cubs actually tied the game in the bottom of the 9th. And then in the top of the 10th, Paul Russell was pitching for the Cubs. And Jim Marshall, who actually played briefly for the Mets. He was either the 62 Mets, I believe. Jim Marshall, the manager, goes out to the mound. And everybody in the stadium knows, at Wrigley Field, knows he's telling Paul Russell, don't even throw a pitch anywhere near Schmidt. The guy's hit 3 today. The wind's blowing out. Don't be crazy. And Jim Marshall's on the top step. He's not even back off the top step of the dugout. And the first pitch Schmidt hits up underneath the scoreboard. His 4th home run.
Leave it to a pitcher who said, you know what? Luck is on my side right now.
Fouls one away. Of course, Mets have had a couple of 3 home run games. Dave Kingman hit 3.
Hey, Ralph
at Dodger Stadium.
Ralph hit about in 4 different games. I think he hit
Ralph
3.
I was going to say he had a ton. Right? Kingman hit 3 in a game at Dodger Stadium. His first stint as a Met. And Al Downing was the pitcher. Kingman came up with a shot to hit his 4th in that game. Al Downing was pitching. Remember, Al Downing had given up Aaron's home run. So I don't think Al was too intrigued about making history again. He bounced curveball after curveball in front of the plate.
Kong should have swung at it.
He did.
Did he?
He struck out. Maybe
was it on purpose?
Oh, he's you know, hey, look, how many times in your life do you get hit 4 home runs? He wasn't going to walk. Think about that. That was an era when you hit 3 home runs at Dodger Stadium in a week. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Kingman hit 3 in 1 game.
Oh, he can hit the ball as far as anybody.
That's right.
He was a great athlete, and of course, because of his reputation, he will never be known as a great athlete because he struck out so much, didn't hit for a high average. When he was at USC, he was the best pitcher on the staff.
Wheeler's got himself into some trouble here, and he's slowed down as Wheeler tries to get Kendall. 3-2. Runners go. Kendall grounds one base hit. That'll get home Jose Hernandez. Well, that's the value of Jason Kendall as a hitter. People focus on what he can't do, which is the power. But the value of him is he does not strike out. He's a great hitter.
On the right team, he would be, well, he's a popular player with the Pirates, but he would be considered a star on the right team. He just doesn't have a lot of power, but he can hit you 300. He can drive in some key runs. He'll get hit by a pitch. He can run, he can catch, and he can throw. But when you make that kind of glue and you don't hit the long ball, you're never going to be appreciated.
Well, that's the problem. He got a gold rush contract.
Yes,
he got it during the gold rush. And $10 million a year, people think he should hit some home runs. But Jason Kendall's just not that kind of player.
They signed him to that contract, and then they decided to move him to left field. He said, I don't like it.
So the Pirates have a 3-1. Now there's still just one man out. And Craig Wilson, the batter. Jason Bay behind him. Mets are flying to Florida after the game. They could be flying into a party tomorrow night. Marlins set up now where they would have a chance to clinch the wild. It still could happen tonight, although it does not appear likely, but they could very well clinch the wild card tomorrow night if they beat the Mets. Or if other teams lose, either way.
It certainly ranks up there with one of the more surprising stories in baseball. Jeff Torborg managing the Marlins, highly respected manager. Couldn't get the Marlins on the right foot. They bring in a 72-year-old manager who tells the players, I'm not here to babysit. You already got a manager fired, and I don't need the job, so we're going to do it my way. I mentioned Brad Penny pitching tonight. They've had their differences. He told Penny, you're going to win 20 games next year. Same thing with Beckett.
And I will be most interested to see what happens in Philadelphia. They've had a good year. They're going into the new ballpark, and it appears they're not going to go in as a playoff team. Will Larry Bowa survive? Will he go to the new ballpark with them?
Well, Pat Burrell's going, isn't he?
There's a strikeout, so Wheeler gets Craig Wilson out number 2.
Pat Burrell's had more of an influence on the Phillies this year than Larry Bowa, I'd say. There's that swing and a miss. Pat Burrell has a halfway decent season. You know what?
That's right.
Phillies are going to be tough.
Well, that's the decision that the Phillies have to make is, who's held accountable, if anybody. They've had a good year. It's not going to be what they want because they're not going to make postseason. Jason Bay is 2 for 3. Meanwhile, Jack may get one of those Frank Robinson deals. He may wind up getting a lifetime deal out of this, huh?
He's 72 years old. And you know what? He looks better at 72 than when I played for him when he was in his 50s. Of course, he used to love those Snicker bars, I think, at the time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with 1 or 2.
And Bay hammers one. Wigginton picks it, and that puts an end to the inning. Pirates tack on a run. And now in the middle of the 8th in the home finale. 3-1 Pirates. Single runs in the 7th and 8th. The Pirates have the lead as we go to the bottom of the 8th, and time to check in on our fans of the game. The final night, Bob Murphy Appreciation Night, McDonald's Fans of the Game. Well, there's a great fan of the game right there.
Yeah, Murphy loves the game of baseball. He was reminiscing tonight with Jack Lang, and they go all the way back to 1962.
Tell you what, that could have been a great Kinders Corner right there.
Yeah.
Murph and Jack Lang in a little private ceremony that was held before the game tonight. Having a chance to swap stories of the beginnings of the Mets.
Funny things happened back then. Jack Lang and Bob Murphy were reminiscing like it was yesterday. Reminds me of the great Mel Allen, the way he used to talk about baseball.
Tony Clark facing Brian Meadows here in the bottom of the 8th. Clark will be followed by Cedeno and McEwing. Mets with only 4 hits tonight, 3 singles, and then a Ty Wigginton home run, which gave them their score in the 5th inning. Piazza has 2 singles tonight, and Joe McEwing has the other hit. Two more innings tonight, and the Mets fervently hope the next thing that will take place on this field is Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Here's a guy, Tony Clark, who's made a nice impression this year. He's also had to adapt to a different role and provided some pop off the bench and has stated he'd like to come back to the Mets.
16 home runs, 41 RBIs. That's pretty good playing part-time. I think it's very good playing part-time.
Well, a guy that can hit it out from either side of the plate, and that's what you need in him. And you've got to have guys coming off the bench that can hit it out.
Hard worker. Said he'll do anything the Mets want him to do, whether it's play every day, play part-time, pinch hit. He's got some pretty good credentials from what he did in Detroit.
And Meadows gets the corner, strike 3. Eddie Montague's got a most unusual. Watch the strike 3 call of the veteran umpire. And there's the right hand is going to. Like that.
You know,
he has a hitter you wouldn't like.
No, it's funny because umpires will tell the catcher, don't turn around, you're showing me up. And then they call a hitter out like that.
Well, in the American League now, postseason play is finalized. The Red Sox win tonight. They wrap up the wild card. So Boston and Oakland, Yankees and Minnesota. First time in a couple of years, right? The Red Sox are in. And again, the National League still up in the air, although it appears the Marlins are going to be the wild card, and if that's the case, they will play San Francisco in the first round. Marlins closing in on eliminating the Phillies. And the Braves would play either the Cubs or the Astros. Stadium is out on strikes, 2 down. Sounds to me like they're taking it personally here tonight. They want this to end on a nice note for Murph. Well, following our post-game report and then Kiner's Corner, and we think it'll be before midnight. Tune in to the most outrageous combination of sports news and entertainment on television right here on Fox Sports Today.
You and Howie never like this to say the title of that show.
Well, I don't speak for anybody else, but
well, yeah, for both. No, that's okay. I'm speaking for both of you.
Well, you know what? That's not a word, and it's funny because Murph's been honored a lot this week by people reminiscing about his use of that word once in 50 years. And I think that's the point.
Well, you know, 3 guys I know don't want to say it: yourself, Howie, and Keith.
Well, I'm in good company. I'm in very good company. Anytime you put me together with Howie and Keith, I'm proud.
All right. But of course, we all know that Keith would never touch that word.
You know what? If that was a word you used in the normal course of broadcast, it would be fine. But you don't. We don't use that word in any other way during a baseball broadcast.
Point well taken. Spoken like a man from Notre Dame University. So Vance Wilson has the catching gear on.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. Mike Piazza is going to play first base in the 9th inning. That's what that means. So stay tuned, folks. We've got something to watch for here. I'm almost going to guarantee you that. Yep, Mike Piazza's coming out to play first base, folks. So a little highlight for the final inning of the home season at Shea. 10 years ago on a Saturday afternoon at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, a rookie named Mike Piazza played the 9th inning of a game at first base. It was a one-sided game that meant very little. And the feat at the time was not noted. It really was not significant. 10 years later, he plays the 9th inning at first base in a game that's meaningless. And this will be a somewhat cataclysmic event.
Okay, look at this. They're going to make a pitching change. They are going to bring in a relief pitcher.
It's Johnny Franco's.
No?
Pedro Feliciano.
Feliciano, a left-hander. They got a left-handed hitter at the plate. They made the switch to taking a right-hander out. Rivera was going to hit.
Okay. Well, Pedro Feliciano is still a Met. We have proof of it. He's coming in to pitch.
Feliciano now will pitch to Rivera. Carlos Rivera, the batter. Mike Piazza at first base. As you see Feliciano's numbers, did Art Howe decide to take a right-hander out and bring in a left-hander to make it a little bit more difficult for a left-hander to pull the ball hard at Mike Piazza? As you see Vance Wilson behind the plate.
Good thought there, Mr. Healy.
His first time out there since, well, you mentioned 10 years ago.
And Pedro Feliciano's got a lot of rust on him as he faces Carlos Rivera. Pedro Feliciano has not pitched since August 27th, almost a month ago. And largely because Feliciano was cast as the long man, and the Mets starters have been so good. The month of September, they haven't needed a long man. But a month without pitching.
Got to be ready, and Mike Piazza knows how to play first base. He played it throughout high school and in college. So he should be somewhat comfortable down there. He's not going to a foreign land.
Koviak will foul. And again, I won't reiterate what I said earlier tonight. I mean, this is a move that we had long expected to happen, but I think for more of September than what has happened. And one inning in one game is really nothing more than a token move. It's not going to establish anything in the minds of Piazza or the Mets about his ability to play that position.
They want to keep his bat strong, so they're hoping he'll play some down there.
Look at that.
How about listen to this place?
That's the biggest cheer we've heard in a month at Shea.
How about that? How about the reaction from the fans here at Shea? And how about Mike's face?
How about that reaction?
A bullet! They're still going wild here.
I mean, you almost know that was going to happen. And even if you said, even if Art Howe put the lefty in to try to prevent that from happening, it's baseball. You put a guy in the field and the ball will find him.
How about the reaction from these fans here at Shea?
And you know something? So now I'm going to amend my statement. So maybe one inning does matter, because at least he got the feel. He got the feel of the ball. I mean, he got the feel of the ball smoked right at him. And, you know, you caught Fran, so I have to ask you this. I would think from a just the most. Yeah, it's good. Obviously getting ready for Ranger season. I like that. That's good.
How about that? From the fans here at Shea Stadium.
But you know, the most fundamental thing I would think, Fran, if you spent your whole career behind the plate, and you spend your whole career behind the bat, Feliciano falls down but makes an accurate throw. Piazza gets duly rewarded by the fans for his catching.
Well, his footwork at first base right now, not a big deal. He's played first base, so he certainly knows the position. This is not a guy who's never been over there. You better get the foot out of the middle of that base.
That's the one thing he'll right. That's the one thing he'll be taught. Get out of the middle. But anyway, I was going to say is that when you sit behind the plate, the one thing you never see the play in front of you, right?
That's
the
right.
ball coming off the bat. That's the thing I would think would be the toughest adjustment.
And nobody's behind you except the umpire. Right. Everything's in front of you. But again, Mike has played over there.
Right.
Now, if the Mets
but not
can
the big leagues. So I guess that would be my question. Is after 10 years of sitting behind the plate, just simply judging the ball off the bat, I would think would be the toughest thing.
Well, I think if Mike moves, it's going to be because he, deep down in his heart, he feels he can help the ball club at first base, and it'll keep him swinging that bat a lot more during the course of the season.
And of course, I harken back to a comment Javi Lopez made about a month ago. Lopez heading into free agency, coming off his best year, and he has said whatever team signs him, he wants them to allow him to play first base next year.
Pudge Rodriguez told me that this year.
So that he can be in the lineup more, and that's what you hope you hear from Mike's mouth sometime this winter.
Well,
I understand that it will help me be in the lineup.
I think if Mike initiated it, it would be a lot easier for him to do it. Pudge Rodriguez initiated it through his agent. The agent's talking to him, but you know, you'd like to hear him say it'll prolong your career so we can get a longer contract. I think he should have used prolong the career.
3-2 now to Nunez.
But the reaction of the fans here to Mike catching that ball, then to chant Mike Piazza.
A lot of people have opinions, and we all. Fran, we spoke about this the night Piazza came back, but sometimes you just have to listen to the fans vote. And the fans voted loudly the first 2 nights Mike came back. They played against the Giants here in mid-August. The fans let everybody know what they think of Piazza. And he's the guy. He's the guy that the people here identify with.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to listen to your customers.
Yeah, he's a superstar. And the thing is, we just showed a shot of that glove. Now we're showing a shot of that shirt. But the glove, he can manipulate that glove because it's not going to be much of an adjustment because the catcher's glove is similar to that glove. Catch it one hand.
Now he's going to get a test here. Wigginton makes the long throw. All 3 plays in top Piazza.
The ball found him.
The ball found him.
And the fans love it.
Listen to this. Come on, smile. Last of the 9th, final chance for the Mets in their final home game of 2003. Mike Piazza played the top of the 9th at first base. First batter, Carlos Rivera right at him.
And a line shot, he gloves it, and he's happy to see it in his glove. And the fans went crazy here at Shea Stadium.
But the game face never broke. I kept waiting to see if Mike would crack any sort of a smile when he got back to the dugout. Didn't see it.
Nope.
Julian Tavarez is coming in to try to close this for Pittsburgh. Rivera stayed in at first base, and Craig Wilson has gone out to right field. Mets have Perez, Piazza, and Wigginton batting. Timo's 0 for 3. Don't forget, we'll see you in Florida tomorrow night, where the Marlins may be able to celebrate. If they can beat the Mets tomorrow night, we'll be on the air 7 o'clock. Mattty Loughlin with On Deck, and 7:30 for the game. Strike 2. Veteran Tavarez, who has had stints as a closer before. And he gets Timo. 1 down in the 9th.
The first baseman, number 31, Mike Piazza.
How'd that sound to you?
Fans love this guy, and they enjoyed him at first base for this particular inning.
I just thought that little announcement by Roger Luce would be good for posterity.
First base. Yeah. And ironically, tonight he threw the ball pretty well. Really threw a runner out. The ball was dropped by Jorge Belandia. Tomorrow you'll see in the paper, E2. Shouldn't
Yeah.
be.
I mean, I don't think a new career has been born tonight.
No.
He's still a catcher, but
Yeah, but you know
he'll
what?
be a catcher who plays some first base.
They want him to play first base. They want him to catch. They want him to stay healthy. They want to use him more than 110 or 115 games a year.
And we'll be going over, after the second out, we'll be going over to catch the final call of Bob Murphy in his Mets broadcast career.
"42 years broadcast Met baseball." Mets put together some nice
That's a lot of
festivities here.
You know what that is, Frank? That's a lot of low ball ones. That's a lot of those. Of course, my son Patrick has given me the most apt description of my job. He says, "Dad, you show up, you talk, and you leave." And I have a hard time arguing with that.
He's right.
And there's strike three, so Piazza is out number 2, and now let's go to WFAN and the Mets Radio Network and Bob Murphy.
Final out. Trailing by 2 runs. They're behind 3-1. Mets have had only 4 men left on base. They've done very little hitting in this game tonight. 1 run and 4 hits. That's been all of it for the New York Mets. So the Pirates certainly have pitched well here tonight, and they are very close to victory. Here comes the pitch by Tavarez. Swing and a miss by Ty Wigginton. Ty 1 for 3. That was a home run in the 5th inning, accounting for the only run scored tonight by the New York Mets. Mets are traveling after the game. They're on their way to Florida. The Pirates are on their way to Chicago. Pitch by Tavarez. Ground ball right side of the infield. The game should be over. Handled by Rebulet. Throws to first. The game is over, and the Pirates have won it. In the 9th inning for New York, no runs, no hits, and nobody left on. We'll be back with a recap of tonight's game in just one moment. The final score, the Pirates 3 and the Mets 1.
And thank you, fans.
Well, that's the final call of Bob Murphy. Sadly, there will be no happy recap tonight, but rarely the happy recap is 42 years and a wonderful, wonderful ovation tonight from the fans.
Fans really reacting to Bob Murphy. It was Bob Murphy night here at Shea Stadium.
Plus, you know what, Franny? He called Mike Piazza's inning at first base.
Yes, he did.
That was his final inning.
Mike Piazza finished the ball game at first base, and a nice play.
And actually, now we see the Met players are coming out of the dugout here on this final home night and
saluting their fans.
Yep. So this is a nice scene here at the end of what has been a most difficult season. Mike Piazza flipping his wrist guards up on top of the dugout for some of the fans. Some of the caps being tossed up, and also applauding and saluting Bob Murphy on his night. Well, the ball game doesn't wind up the Mets' way, but a lot of other things to smile about tonight, including maybe sometime later tonight, Mike Piazza will smile about his first inning at first base. We'll come back to Shea in a moment.
For a marvelous career and for being the voice of summer.
Well, thank you very much. I'll say goodbye now to everybody. Stay well out there, wherever you may be. I've enjoyed the relationship with you. New York Mets Baseball is a production of Sports Radio.
So there were some closing comments. Bob Murphy with Gary Cohen on WFAN Radio and Murph's farewell Met broadcast. But we're not done with him yet. Murph's coming up with Ralph on Kiner's Corner in a few moments.
Here's our drive of the game, Ty Wigginton, a home run. But the Mets fell short tonight, but Wigginton picked up our Dodge drive of the game. Hit him just like Ralph Kiner used to hit him in Pittsburgh.
But the Pirates got a run in the 7th, a run in the 8th. The Pirates win it 3-1. And we'll come back with more in our...
This is a night in which the Mets and we here at Fox Sports Net will a broadcasting legend. Bob Murphy, one of the original voices of the New York Mets, will announce his final game tonight. He spent 56 years in pro baseball, 50 in the major leagues, the last 42 with the New York Mets. Joining the broadcast team of Lindsey Nelson and Ralph Kiner back in 1962. And from that moment, bringing constant, warm memories to Mets fans through the generations. The voice of summer indeed for millions of Mets fans. Earlier today, Bob had one last news conference to talk about how he was able to keep strong through 42 years.
It's been a marvelous way to make a living. When I first started out in the business, my brother Jack was a fine sports writer, as you probably know. We talked about it. We both were just coming home from the Marine Corps, from the Pacific. And Jack said to me, the only advice I can offer you is that pretend like that microphone is a typewriter and just sit there and report the game to the best of your ability. And we did try to do that, and it worked out awfully well. Met fans have just been terrific from the very, very beginning.
The voice is still strong, that Midwest drawl that Bob Murphy brought to the broadcast booth, and tonight will be his final game. As I said, he's brought countless memories to Met fans. Here's a little recap, a happy recap of what Bob Murphy has meant.
Well, hi there, everybody. This is Bob Murphy welcoming you to the first regular season game in the history of the New York Mets. The 3-2 delivery, the runner goes, and a little pop-up. Milner grabs it. He'll run to first. Double play. The Mets win the pennant. The Mets have just won the pennant in the Eastern Division.
Bob Murphy's voice is a source of comfort for Mets fans. For Murphy's voice is New York Mets baseball. How can any Mets fan feel differently? You see, Murph's voice is all they've ever known.
Right, Bob Murphy? Opening day less than 2 weeks away, Lindsay. You're right.
It began in 1962 as the new franchise chose the three voices that would tell the story of the New York Mets.
Number one, they were looking for somebody with a national reputation. That turned out to be Lindsey Nelson. They wanted a former National League home run hitter if possible. That turned out to be Ralph Kiner. And they wanted somebody with experience of doing everyday play-by-play Major League Baseball. Well, by then I'd had 8 years, 6 years in Boston and 2 years in Baltimore. So I sent in an audition to qualify for that. And fortunately for me, I won the audition.
Murphy has been our conduit to some of the greatest moments in franchise history. None greater than what believes to be the best of all, the 1969 triumph of the amazing Mets.
Well, the Orioles were heavy favorites to win that World Series. I don't think too many people involved with the Mets thought the Mets could upset Baltimore. I said, my goodness, they've won the World Series. It was incredible. What a marvelous moment.
Along the journey, Mets fans have grown accustomed to hearing Murphy's account of how their beloved team did in that day's ballgame, including, of course, his happy recap of wins for the home team.
Back with a happy recap in just a moment. The final score, the New York Mets 23, the Chicago Cubs 10.
I know I used it for a while, and I thought, hey, that's pretty corny. So I said, I'll stop using it, and I did stop. But strangely enough, I got quite a bit of mail saying, hey, we like it when you say that. So I said, okay, I'll put it back in for a while. So I put it back in, and the fans seemed to like it, so it stayed in.
From the beginning, Bob Murphy has been held in the highest regard by the baseball community. In 1994, he was honored for his prestigious career with induction into the broadcast wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame.
I enjoyed that a lot. My family and close friends were all there. It was a happy day at Cooperstown, and it's always a hot day. The weather's always so terribly hot. But it was an experience I'll never forget, and I was delighted that Ralph Kiner was there, and Ralph was going to be part of the induction process. But everything about the ceremony was marvelous.
Now, after 50 years in the game and 42 years with the New York Mets, Bob Murphy will call his final regularly scheduled game. He leaves behind, for millions of New York Mets baseball fans, a voice that is part of their Mets memories. Memories that will live on forever.
It's been a wonderful ride. I've enjoyed it. I love you, and I thank you.
Well, Bob Murphy finally got it down where it was a really good art. He was one of the greatest fellas behind a microphone that anybody ever saw, and now he's doing the best part of it. He's going to quit and enjoy life for the rest of the year. Bob, we're going to miss you. You were one of the best, and it was a great pleasure working with you.
Bob, as I'm sure you know, you're very fortunate to have had the Mets all these years. And the Mets and their fans are so very fortunate to have had you. You served the Mets and their fans with distinction and with class. You're a Hall of Famer. You're a big leaguer on and off the field. And so my prayers for you and joy would be for many, many wonderful years in your retirement. I'm going to miss you, pal.
Hey, Murph. First of all, I just want to say that I well remember those 2 years we spent together in Baltimore way back in 1960 and 61. I wish we could have been together longer, but sometimes, as the saying goes, things turn out for the best. Now that you've decided to, well, hang it up, I just want to take the opportunity to wish you and your family the very best. Congratulations on your long and wonderful baseball career. And here's hoping that, like your career, your retirement's going to be a long and wonderful one.
So it's a night of celebration here at Shea Stadium. Bob Murphy night, as the great one calls his final game. Bob Murphy night here at Shea. Mets and Pirates getting ready for the final game at home for the Mets this season. Checking out the Corona miles beyond the ordinary facts regarding Jason Phillips in this his rookie season. Well, he is the older brother of Kyle. Kyle's in the Twins organization. JP met his wife in Australia. Kelly was playing basketball there, and their first child was born in the month of August. And what a year it's been for Jason Phillips, and he certainly has been a key part of the Mets this season, in that they realize they have a young player they can bank on next season. It's our Just for Men rejuvenating player of the season. Just for Men hair color, more than a rejuvenator. Ends gray in 5 minutes and looks natural. Broke in with a bang this season and played pretty well at first. Not his natural position, so sometimes there are adventures. But Jason Phillips certainly has fit in, and while the injury down the stretch here has prevented him from getting back out on the playing field, again, the Mets got a good enough look that they know this guy can handle the stick on the major league level. There on August 30th was the 5,000th home run in Mets history. Place in the record books for Jason Phillips, and a season to remember for him, who right now ranks 4th among rookies in batting average, 3rd in home runs, 3rd in runs batted in, 2nd in on-base percentage, and 2nd in their broadcast crew. Bob Murphy will call his final game tonight. He literally beat the bushes early in his career, working minor league baseball in the Midwest, then came stops in Boston and Baltimore, before finally he came to the Big Apple, Broadway, the New York Mets, 42 years ago. And he's been there ever since, through good and bad, on both radio and television. And tonight, the Mets, in pregame ceremonies, will honor this broadcasting icon who is enshrined in the broadcast wing at Cooperstown. He has brought many evenings and afternoons of enjoyment to Mets fans, none more so than back in 1986.
Series with the Phillies tonight. The Fish, 3 huge games up on Philly now. Their magic number down to 2, so 1 more Marlins win. And yes, the Marlins are in. The other race we're all watching going on in the NL Central between the Cubs and the Astros comes with a 1-game lead over Houston, both in action tonight. Chicago, they've been on fire of late. They've given up just 1 run over the last 3 games. The Cubs are in Cincinnati. The Astros are playing Milwaukee. Again, Houston 1 game back in the NL Central. Now, last night, the Cubs were playing ball when they heard the Astros had won, so they needed a big playmaker to get the job done. Who's bigger than Sammy Sosa? Sosa belting his 37th home run to ignite a 6-run 3rd inning. It was career number 536. Why do I tell you that? Well, he tied Mickey Mantle for 10th on the all-time list. The Yankees off tonight, enjoying the fruits of their playoff-pushing labor. They'll finish up the season in a series tomorrow against the Orioles. They won the division. Now they play for home field advantage. In the American League, the only game that matters is the only game we're going to tell you about. The Orioles and Red Sox. Now, Boston needs just a win, and they're in for the first time since 1999. It's Derek Lowe, Omar Dahl, both of your starters. Seattle, 3.5 games back. They look to be all out of it. Again, Boston just needs a win tonight over Baltimore, and they are in as the American League wildcard.